What does anyone really own? Chapter 1. You are what you do, not your material possessions. You are what you did in the past 10 years. Let's say you're an enlightened free spirit. You release most of the natural energy in your spirit every day. Multiply this by thousands of days. By the time you're 50, there's nobody left in your local area with a strong free spirit except for you and a few other enlightened people who live like you do. People wonder why they lose themselves, why they went from being good-looking, energetic, easygoing young people to become dull, middle-aged, overweight, pale, sickly, depressed frumps. It's pretty common to see someone you haven't seen in 20 years look much different than they used to look, skewed in the negative direction. The answer is simple. Imagine not using up your natural energy for thousands of days at a time. There's nothing left but a shell or a blimp. You only get inspiration and joy by releasing your natural energy all the time. Depression is not caused by some deep-rooted baggage buried in your past. That's the phony reason psychobablists give you so that they can make money off you, prescribing drugs and holding endless psychotherapy sessions at over $100 a pop. The real reason all these middle-aged people are mundane and depressed is that they didn't release their natural energy for several thousand days in a row, so they lost a hold of that vital, strong spirit they might have once had when they were 22. This is the spiritual aesthetic sadness permeating prosperous, Western societies, but nobody seems to understand why all the career success, socioeconomic status, material stuff, and pop culture entertainment aren't enough to make us happy. Everybody you went to school with is a fading, overweight person with a flatline life, brainwashed by materialism and pop culture entertainment, that feels no natural euphoric joy because they don't do anything intense for the inspiration and fun of it. They're working some average job they don't really like, or sit home pursuing comfort and luxury like they were brainwashed to, with no exertion from the soul, therefore no highs or no strong spirit in their lives. You either culture a strong spirit every day or it fades away. Is there anything more valuable than having a strong spirit? I've written a pretty big health book in my Transformer series of books. People wonder why we in the most technologically advanced society ever are overweight and suffer from lots of degenerative diseases. It's because of our brainwashed lifestyles, where we're brainwashed to think that luxury and comfort as defined by marketing forces are the pinnacle of success and happiness, but they're not. If you ever watch a team of husky dogs pulling a sled, most people think it's hard, unpleasant, tedious work, but if you look closer you'll see that they're smiling. They're in their element, doing what they were born to do, releasing that natural energy with joy for the process. This is their life force, their fountain of youth, their rejuvenation process, one day at a time. Move your body to get oxygen into it, which kills toxins, then take your brain for a good ride through the release of your creative intellectual energy, and your neural connections will be as strong as they can possibly be, not to mention the effects on the spirit. Last one standing. I feel strong and free because I use myself up every day. If you're not consciously trying to get to that place where you feel a natural high through what you do, a period of time during the day when you're in the zone, so to speak, absorbed in activities you love to do because they both express and feed your spirit at the same time, you're a lost soul. Release your natural energy every day and you'll be the last one standing left your age at the nursing home if you end up there. I plan to die in good health in my home in my sleep. I'll be free until the end. If I can't live freely doing what I want, what's the good of it? Nobody comes close to the strong spirits that enlightened free spirits have. This strong spirit gives them all the health and vitality they need. Everybody's born with an inherent standard of life unique to them. You enter the world with a natural blueprint already inside of you. You have tendencies, talents, and archetypes that either come from God or your genetic configuration. It doesn't matter to me what you believe in. The undeniable fact is that whatever created you is the most divine thing in the universe. You honor it by expressing the true nature it gave you. If you want to live a great life that goes beyond common cultural indoctrination, you have to discover your true nature, then live by it. Most people live by their minds, even though the purest, most divine thing we own is our free spirits. This is why a lot of people feel that there's something missing in their lives despite what they do or what success they achieve in the material, capitalist world. They're missing a strong connection to who they really are by nature. We've been so brainwashed by life in the material world that we got cut off from our senses, what we feel. You can feel whatever is in your free spirit and live by it if you're free and enlightened, but many of us are so brainwashed that we're buying all this self-help, social science, psychobabble crap they're coming out with. You free your spirit by releasing the natural energy you feel within yourself. It's the only way you're gonna feel really good day after day. You're not gonna get there following Dr. Bobo's life strategies or Baldo's habits of highly effective people. If you want health, well-being, transcendence, longevity and happiness, the only way to do it is by releasing the natural energy in your soul with intensity, grit, and love for the process day after day. If you stop, you lose your natural sense of inspiration. You don't believe me? Take a look at most professional athletes 5 years after they leave the game. It doesn't matter what anyone did in the past. All that matters is what you do right now, today and every day. Lots of people have their material needs met and then some, but it doesn't make them happy. They think they got it made when they make a lot of money or retire with a pension, but what do you do then day after day? Material things aren't enough. Consuming pop culture entertainment won't make you happy. Love can't give you self-respect or inspiration. The only thing that can keep you going with joy over a lifetime is to constantly release the natural energy in your free spirit. Modern society doesn't seem to understand this. I suspect it's because it's bad for the sales machine if a lot of people discover that it's all about releasing natural energy to stay inspired and feeling good every day, not about material things and pop culture entertainment. No matter what happens in your life, either good or bad, when you wake up every morning, all you got is your free spirit. If you release at least 75% of the natural energy in your free spirit every day, you will always feel pretty good. If you don't, that's the start of a mundane life that eventually fades to depression, which is a loss of connection to oneself. You lose the only thing you really own, a strong connection to your free spirit. Based on my experiences trying everything I could find that life has to offer, I eventually realized that the only way I can feel good in the transcendent sense as opposed to mundane comfort is to constantly consciously make a good effort to release the natural energy inside of me. There's nothing else that can do it. If you don't culture a strong spirit by expending your natural energy, you're missing the point of your life. We're always buying stuff to try to get a good feeling, but the only way you can transcend the material world is to release whatever lives inside your free spirit like you mean it, with an attitude of gusto. If you let your true essence rot away by not using it, you end up out of harmony with yourself, which translates into a weak body and a mind that exists at anywhere from a mundane to miserable state of consciousness. The only people who feel anywhere from good to great all the time are the ones who stay connected to their true essences as human beings by releasing the natural energy in their free spirits with some passion, intensity, and love for the process. This is my hook on life: release the natural energy in my free spirit all the time. I keep going, releasing my natural energy, and feel anywhere from good to great most of the time. Many of us live by our transient emotions. We have no solid base of who we are within ourselves that guides us on how to live. We react to our emotions of the moment. I am not my memories of my life in the past. I am not my dreams and worries about the future. I am who I am right now based on how much of my natural energy I release day by day. If I express most of the energy in my spirit, I feel anywhere from good to great. If I don't, I feel anywhere from average to sad. Preferably, you figure out a way to earn a living through doing what you love to do, but even if you can't, you must release this inner natural energy if you want to feel good about your life. Don't pick a career that you're not passionate about just for status and money. Don't marry someone for any reason other than love. If you do, you'll pay with the stress of not following your true nature. When I was a young guy, I was curious about the world, so I went out looking for fun, pleasure, thrills, adventure, success, status, recognition, achievement, religious conviction, New Ageism and self-help, psychobabble wisdom. At the end of it all, nothing had improved about me except that I now knew that none of it satisfied me. I was still the same person I was before I went on my quest to find the answers to life. The purity inside of me was still the same. My inner essence kept guiding me, through my inner voice, to do the few things I was naturally drawn to that I was doing at 5 years old, vigorous physical activities that made me feel like an untamed bohemian close to nature and creative intellectual pursuits that inspired and stimulated my state of mind. I figured out that I can stay inspired day after day as long as I want if I release most of the natural energy I feel inside of me every day when I wake up to match an inherent standard of who I feel I was born to be and what I consider worthy effort. This earns me self-respect and a sense of well-being day by day, the most underrated commodities in a modern, capitalist world. In a capitalist world, we're conditioned to be about image, try to get other people to think we're cool and successful, but in the free spirits world, it's about self-respect and well-being because you know you answer to the inspired spark inside of you that came from your creator. After the release of my inspired energy day by day, I have a few other interests but not many, a little bit of love, a bit of sensual hedonism and the exploration of my mind in the tradition of John C. Lilly, Terence McKenna, and Timothy Leary, who explored altered states of consciousness to probe the frontiers of their minds. The usual recreational pursuits that society offers mean nothing to me: golf, watching sports on TV, playing video games, crime novels, playing bingo, going to a fast food restaurant or going to the latest movie. This is all low-level capitalist bull geared to enslave our minds and turn us into a bunch of passive consumer spectator wimps so we can always be buying stuff as opposed to living active lives running with our free spirits. Many of us don't hold on to the strong spirits we had as young people. It's the big tragedy nobody acknowledges or talks about, the loss of the power in our free spirits. We lost a hold of something but we don't know exactly what it is. We care more about the car we drive and the square footage of our houses than about who we are in our spirits. The mainstream system that we see on TV and in the media has given us a narrow definition of life that many of us fall for. They define happiness and success in terms of making money and achieving status, fame, or an important position out in the world. They tell us that buying lots of material things and pursuing a lifestyle of luxury is the highest, ultimate path of life. The lies of conventional psychobabble wisdom. There can be no knowledge without emotion. We may be aware of a truth, yet until we have felt its force, it is not ours. To the cognition of the brain must be added the experience of the soul. Arnold Bennett, 1867–1931. They have cheerleaders for the capitalist success ideology through the one-dimensional self-help, motivational, life coach experts and gurus out there who all have the same shtick. They offer you anywhere from 4 to 15 of their mind tools, life strategies, rules, steps, tips, or stages to success in the capitalist world, pretending they have some magical, advanced knowledge from the scientific study of human behavior, but it's all a lie. A human being cannot follow these artificial, mechanical rules they come up with because firstly, they go against the true intuitive natures we were born with. You weren't created to follow some formula for one-dimensional success that tells you to set some goals and follow them day by day, because life as you live it is a flowing blend of emotion, intuition, inspiration, hedonism, carnal desires, and love, with rational logic being a distant last. Secondly, life as lived is not some cut and dry affair where you can neatly follow 10 life strategies, 12 life makeover rules, or 7 steps to a better you. You come across situations all the time where your rules don't apply. They can't help you make a decision. You have to make it now with your own intuition. Your way of thinking and living is not some one-dimensional, cut and dry path to capitalist success. You live by your emotions minute by minute, day by day. You just can't write down some list of 6 steps to get the ultimate edge that some knucklehead masquerading as a life expert in a stupid infomercial created, then pull it out every few hours to help you decide what to do next. There's no advanced mind reprogramming technology that exists anywhere on the planet that can sincerely help you. You can go back as far as Dale Carnegie and his power of positive thinking to the latest slick self-empowerment infomercial on TV and examine them all. In the end, none of them can help you in a permanent way because they're all made up of artificial, limited, disjointed, minor one-liner tips and rules that are nothing next to the person you are in your soul. That's why every conventional self-help book or tape package ever created fails, because you weren't born to follow artificial rules and your life is not about success and happiness as defined by one-dimensional self-help gurus preaching mechanical ways to achieve success in a capitalist world. There's no way you can follow their rules of success and happiness because all work and no play makes Jack such a dull boy that he says screw that crap and reverts back to his normal lifestyle. On top of that, happiness is a natural feeling you get when you're proud of yourself because of what you've done on any particular day. You can't engineer it. It's a natural, spontaneous emotion that mostly comes as a result of inspired effort to do something that you deem tough, challenging or worthwhile. Happiness to me is a sense that I'm freeing myself from the general mundanity of the human condition by doing something tough or inspired that takes me up to a higher state of consciousness. The only way you get real power is by following the natural, intuitive, inspired power within your free spirit, not by following some phony, hyped-up mind tools or habits of highly effective people some system-manufactured self-help guru made up that they're trying to sell you as the key to success and happiness in life. Are we that pathetic that we've packaged our lives so much that we can't even think for ourselves outside the boxes of capitalism, pop culture entertainment, the mainstream news, religion, and psychobabble? Khrushchev told Nixon our decadence would destroy us in 1959. We're not exactly stellar specimens of humanity. We eat processed foods full of toxic chemicals, at least half of us are taking some kind of drug, then we sit passively in front of a screen watching silly shows and talk into a phone that's beaming electromagnetic waves into our brains. When the cell phone companies tell us it's just harmless waves, most of believe them, just like when the tobacco companies told us cigarettes were good for us. We lost that simple work ethic, independence of mind and physical vitality our ancestors had. The massive psychobabble industry goes right along with it, trying to say we need to probe our pasts through psychoanalysis then take mental health drugs to fix our minds. It's all about making money, even if it's a big lie that destroys people's lives in the process, getting them hooked on drugs they don't need, trying to get them to relieve negative events or trying to find negative events where none exist. The past has no bearing on who you create yourself to be every single day when you wake up. Our formal institutions are lying to us in order to increase their power over us and make money. If you believe somebody when they diagnose your kid with ADHD and say you gotta put him on Ritalin, you're a sucker. They have no machine that can scan your brain and say definitively that you have a mental disorder based on the physiological map of your brain. They have lists of behavioral traits that people afflicted with a certain mental disorder exhibit, but the funny thing is that all of us arguably exhibit all these behaviors at some point in time in the space of a week or so. None of these alleged mental disorders existed up until about 50 years, but somehow the human race managed to survive. We call this iatrogenesis. The lies of New Age wisdom. The energy flows through you from your divine source, your free spirit. There are two main lies that the New Age type gurus preach. The first is that by the law of attraction, the power of your intentions will get you what you want because you emit some magical type of vibrations that the mystical, divine force of the universe hears, then grants you your wishes. The other lie is that we are all one, united as humanity, we are the family of mankind, a team of kindred spirits singing Kumbaya in front of the Lincoln Memorial and the Statue of Liberty while we build a big wall on the southern border. The truth is that we are not a happy, loving family. If we were, we would be looking out for the well-being of each other, but we are all individuals out for our own pleasure and comfort. At one end, we have elitist fat cats living in extreme luxury, while at the other end, thousands of people die every day of starvation and the lack of inexpensive medical treatment. The law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest rules among the human race. The people with the power exploit the powerless people to get what they can out of them so they can live luxurious, elitist lives. There's no sharing and caring going on. You can be certain of one thing, that these new age gurus are making money selling their books and tapes to build a nest egg for themselves which they ain't sharing with their fellow man. This is the hypocrisy of the new age self-help industry. It's about selling hyped up snake oil to stupid, naive people in order to make enough money to shield themselves from the hardships of life that most people lie by. It's not really about love, because if it was, everybody would give most of their material wealth away and live modest lives trying to help less fortunate people, making us dependent and powerless. There's no technology of the mind that some advanced psychologists supposedly discovered or created. The human being is the same as he was in Plato's time. Human nature is still basic. Of course, they want to justify their existences as psychiatrists, psychologists, self-help gurus, and life coaches, so they pretend they have some advanced knowledge gained by doing all kinds of social science research and studying all that crap in their textbooks, but it's all a big pile of bull. Remember the stories The Emperor's New Clothes and The Wizard of Oz? They were about illusions masquerading as truth. That's exactly what the sciences of psychology and psychiatry are, and every slick self-help package that comes on the scene proclaiming it has some technology of the mind tools, or some other foolishness. We can't let these asses pretend they know what's good for us better than we know ourselves and go on mainstream TV acting as our system-sanctioned wise people just because they got some credential from a formal academic institution in the social sciences that's in on this deception too. It's iatrogenesis all over again. Expand this phony field by any means possible to get more power and make more money. Every talk show, news show, and even some legal court cases use these system-sanctioned experts to explain something about human behavior that they supposedly know better than other people because they took a bunch of low-level courses in school a number of years ago based on quantitative research about human behavior, which is a lie in itself, to pretend to come to insights about human behavior by doing trivial experiments where you manipulate a variable then get some numbers by measuring something to compare the experimental and control group. This works in chemistry but not with people, because people have an X factor that overrides everything, their individual souls or essences as human beings. We all have intuition about human behavior that's partially inherent and partially developed on our own as we experience life as the means to function in society with other people. We all have to develop insights into how other people operate simply to survive and thrive. The point is that by using so-called experts on TV and in magazines so much, the mass media is giving people the indirect message that there are experts out there who we should trust have more insights into the human condition than we do. What this does is educates us to be powerless, to trust these system experts rather than trusting ourselves and making our own decisions. This is one way among several ways that modern society screws us, all because the drug industry, the book industry, the mass media and the mental health industry want us hooked on self-help books, mental health drugs and therapy to make money off us and control us. You can listen to self-help tapes for 20 hours a day, but the amount of inspiration, wisdom, and enlightenment that this will give you is nothing next to an individual tapped into his or her true nature, because it's artificial next to the true essence you are in your soul. A wise person lives an inspired lifestyle and takes care of their bodies, not like some of these people who are overweight and look like they haven't gone outside for a walk in years, yet we give them a license and tell them you're now an official witch doctor able to dispense advice and cast spells on the stupid people of the tribe who give you your power by believing in all this useless hocus pocus that you do. What can some fat old woman possibly tell me about life when she obviously can't even control her love for food, or some introverted, skinny, pale, bearded man who has never done anything freely on his own for the curiosity and adventure of it? He trusts his books more than he trusts himself. He missed the whole point of his life, find his own truth and live by it, but he has some license proclaiming that he's one of society's wise people, even though he's obviously a geeky nerd who has never explored his life freely enough to go on the proverbial hero's journey that all real individuals go on. He acts like a deep, profound guy, but it's all with other people's ideas. He can quote Plato, Freud, and Skinner, but hasn't done anything to probe himself as a power of one. All education supposedly has one purpose: to teach you to think for yourself. Don't become another parrot of the system. He hides behind his title of advanced wise man, but he has alienated himself from his true nature by buying into all this stuff, or at least acting like he does for the money. You got about 1 million parrots out there making money from the psychobabble, self-help industries, both teaching it and treating it. Then you got me telling you that they're all full of crap. I don't stand a chance against the mass media and the psychology and psychiatry professional organizations crucifying me because I'm saying their use of psychobabble experts to create content is a lie. But you, the people, can make your own decisions about who's speaking the truth. Decide for yourself. Just because there's a big, regal-looking building at the university in your local area called the Psychology Building or the Social Sciences Building doesn't mean they're doing anything useful in there. It's intimidating, but it doesn't mean they're right. It's all capitalism, make money even if you're lying about your shtick. They've created an industry of phony, trivial, useless knowledge that they're trying to expand like any good capitalist venture does. You can't keep breaking human nature down into thousands and thousands of categories, steps, stages, rules, and habits and call it knowledge, because at some point, you're splitting hairs. We are what we are, basic beings living by intuition and instinct, by the purity in our souls, no different than our cave-dwelling ancestors, yet we've created this massive sea of phony knowledge for ourselves in this massive sea of bullshit called the social sciences. We, the individuals who make up humanity, should not allow other people to create an institution or industry where they're claiming they got the goods on insight into the human condition when they really don't, simply because everybody is a self-contained loner soul with their own music in their own souls. You cannot physiologically measure a person's mind. Nobody will ever understand exactly how another human being thinks and feels, so that makes all of us loners stuck with our own lives that we physiologically can't share with anyone else, because nobody else can ever feel exactly what we feel. I have no right to judge somebody else and put him or her into some category of mental conditions as defined by the Bible of the mental health industry called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual /DSM, simply because it's impossible for me to ever understand anyone else. Every person is too individual to fit neatly into some category some psychobablist created. The best anybody can do in life is to follow their free spirits purely and clearly, to try to become the person they feel they were born to be by nature, away from the socio-economic system they were brought up to believe in. If somebody was really wise, they would live their lives freely, being true to themselves, away from everything they were brought up to believe in. But we have a situation where a bunch of people got together, decided that certain ideas are the truth of the human condition, and made it their religion, even though deep down most of them know that a lot of it is really flaky stuff. All psychiatrists and psychologists are a bunch of brainwashed wimps hiding behind their so-called credentials, pretending to have the goods on understanding the human condition. But if they were really strong, enlightened people, they'd say what a pile of capitalist manufactured bull created to make money off stupid people, and they would go off to live their lives freely away from all this crap. But how many people have the guts to do that? Virtually none of them. We live in a wimpy, spineless world. There is no such thing as a science of human behavior. Human life is an ongoing flow of thoughts and emotions, different for every individual. If some teacher sees some kid acting all excited, the kid is just being natural, following his true nature. There is nothing wrong with his brain. It's normal for a healthy kid to want to move around, not to sit quietly in some classroom. It's artificial to put some kid in a classroom at 5 years old and expect him to be a good little clone right away. Most of us obey, but if you don't, it doesn't mean there's a problem in your brain. To her, he's got a behavioral problem. He's disrupting the class, so she sends him to the school psychologist, who already knows what she told him, so he too observes these disruptive behaviors from his list of what defines attention deficit disorder. The kid is told there's something wrong with his brain, he's put on Ritalin. The school now gets an extra $500 a month because it's got another LD kid on its list. The parents are relieved because it's not their fault for being poor parents. It's supposedly caused by a biochemical imbalance in the brain, and the school psychologist feels like he's doing useful work to help people. But all that really happened is that we told some kid you're messed up, then put him on drugs rather than talking to him about who he is, what's his true nature, then trying to help him express it and find something positive to do with it. It's a big tragedy that we accept without fighting it. Dependent and powerless too. We must not give our power to live our own lives freely away to the social science institutions. Like I said, human nature has not changed in the past 3,000 years. Human life is basic. There is nothing advanced about living that the last 100 years of psychological research has given us except for what they do that examines the physiological, organic brain. Everything else is psychobabble that means nothing next to who you are in your free spirit. Free spiritism is the only ideology that strips the bull away, tells you exactly who you are by nature and how to live the best life possible every day. Simply discover your true nature and release that energy every day. Figure out a way to earn a living through doing something that you love to do from your true nature. If you have children, raise them to discover their true natures and live by them. That's it. Everything else is a lie from the world. One big giveaway that all these self-help gurus out there aren't free and enlightened is that virtually all of them talk about how they can help you change, as they call it. The truth is that you don't change. You're the same holistic essence at birth that you will be when you die, unless you either have a traumatic brain injury, your brain chemistry changes through drug use, or you get a mentally degenerative disease like Alzheimer's. Depression is caused by a person who has lost a connection to his true nature. Of course, sadness could be triggered by a tragedy like the loss of a family member before their time, but sooner or later the individual has to let go and get on with his life. If he doesn't, he loses himself, just like all the many people who lose themselves to dull jobs and pop culture entertainment. Sadness or depression is an inner mourning for the lost self, for the strong, free spirit that you could have been, but instead, you bought into the bullshit of the world, and now you're basing your self-worth on standards set by the society you live in, not by yourself as an individual. Sadness has nothing to do with the kid you were at 8 years old or some traumatic incident you lived through several years ago, which they call post-traumatic stress disorder. These are great excuses for the psychobabble industry, because then they can spend many therapy sessions talking about this foolishness, but sadness is about one thing that's happening right now. You lost your self-honor or self-respect because you have not released your natural, inherent, inspired energy in a long time. Now you're sad because you've degenerated into a sniveling, little wimp, too lazy and pathetic to get up off your ass to do something, so you let those so-called experts coddle you by giving you therapy sessions and drugs, but at the end of this big charade, you still ain't feelin' any natural joy. It's your own fault. It's not about some physiological biochemical defect in your brain beyond your control. That's what they tell you, but it's a bold-faced lie. They can't measure your brain relative to your normal baseline and determine that you're low in serotonin receptors. All those millions of people taking antidepressant drugs were not born with brain defects. You create your biochemistry through how you live, what you do, how you think, and what you eat. No mental health drug ever created has cured anyone of feeling down and out. The only thing that cures you is to discover the inspiration that exists in your free spirit and release it all the time. If you don't do this, you can take mental health drugs forever, which will numb you over and give you a transient buzz, so you'll get addicted to them for the temporary high, but you'll never solve your problem, which is that you lost your connection to your natural free spirit. Once you start feeling down, if you don't do anything but wallow in self-pity, the negative feelings continue to spiral in on you at an accelerated rate, because you're not only feeling down, you're also sitting around not doing anything inspired while continuously feeling sorry for yourself. You must simply get inspired about your life by releasing a good dose of natural energy all the time. The real issue is how pure will you be versus how much will you get brainwashed by the world. The highest you can ever go in life is to follow your true nature purely without being brainwashed. Almost nobody is free and enlightened enough to live their lives without being brainwashed by anything. I know there's me and my creatively inspired bohemian kindred spirits around the world, but after that, there aren't too many truly independent thinkers around who live for their own sense of inspiration and love of their lives. Any change you ever make in your life is to go from being brainwashed by society's rules back to following the true nature you were born with, which is not changing. You're going back to who you really are. That's it. There's nothing else, no advanced technology of the mind, some ancient Chinese secrets of wisdom or Buddhist dharma that they want you to think they have. It's just another big lie of a capitalist system that wants to separate you from your true nature and make you dependent on it for everything, even on how to think and live your life through the thousands of lying, shameless, disgusting self-help psychobabble books out there polluting the minds of the citizenry. Bring your children up by letting them explore their lives. When they find something positive they're interested in, let them pursue it as long as they want. An active life leads to happiness. What do you do that invigorates you? You have three options in life in a modern society where you're not constantly worried about basic survival. Follow your true nature. Figure out a way to earn a living from it. If you want capitalist success, you have to find something you really like to do that you can make money from. If you don't like what you do to earn a living, the money won't make you happy or whole. Follow the values of the world which are all artificial next to your true nature. Don't do much of anything beyond sitting around absorbing pop culture entertainment and consuming stuff. If anyone were to do a study where they monitored people who live to release their natural energy, people who release artificial energy doing jobs they don't particularly like and people who don't do much beyond eat and consume pop culture entertainment, over a lifetime, the people who live to release their natural energy will be much stronger, happier, and healthier than the other two groups provided they figure out a way to earn a living and don't end up as starving artists or homeless bohemians. If you added a fourth group of people who consciously think positive thoughts kinda like looking in the mirror telling themselves that they are wonderful, beautiful gods and goddesses, I say it won't do anything for them without the release of their natural energy. It's just meaningless, empty Pollyanna false bravado aka self-hype. This is the big lie of the modern psychobabble industry, that if you think happy thoughts, your positive intentions will manifest whatever you want by some mystical vibrational forces of the universe. Nothing will happen unless you take action to honor the natural power you feel inside of you and build up sweat equity. I'm not against positive thinking. Of course you have to think positively, but if you sit around telling yourself how wonderful you are and don't actually earn some self-respect by doing tough, challenging things, your positive thoughts are just empty words that will not do anything for you. Talk is cheap. Action speaks louder than all the psychobabble in the world. I don't buy into psychobabble, but if I did I would buy into their categories of personality disorders. Narcissistic personality disorder is an official mental disorder about people who think too highly of themselves in relation to what they've actually done that contributes something useful to the world. All these Pollyanna types are delusional narcissists. There are people who look in the mirror and talk themselves up. Why don't you do something useful or inspired instead? The idea of life for a free spirit like me is to feel anywhere from good to great all the time. Based on my observations of people in general, most are brainwashed to follow the values of the world and take on its definitions of happiness and success rather than separating themselves from the world agenda to focus on who they are as individuals purely and freely. If you follow the artificial values of the world, you're always feeling some sense of inner disharmony because you're not following your true nature. If you're living the couch potato lifestyle, you're on your way to self-contempt. Human life is simple. Honor your true nature by releasing the natural energy inside of you and you always feel good. Neglect this natural energy that you were born to release by nature by either doing things artificial to who you really are or sitting around being passively entertained by something and the unused energy builds up inside of you. The key to a happy, vital life is to constantly release the energy in your free spirit. This keeps you strong, inspired and feeling free, which is kinda like feeling light-footed with a spring in your step. You can dance freely without feeling self-conscious about it. If you don't do this day after day, you will degenerate into a mundane person at some point in time. Some people function adequately as mundane people because they're releasing some energy through their work even though it's artificial energy as opposed to the natural energy in their souls. It's enough to make them feel like they have some success in the capitalist world they were brainwashed by, but they're not happy. They're just feeling average in a comfortably complacent way. They don't feel like they're centered in their lives, like they're being who they were born to be. This is how I felt before I became enlightened. If you really hate your job to the point where you feel it's sapping your soul or your life force, you'll get depressed. If you're not releasing any substantial energy at all, be it artificial or natural, the end result is always a feeling of self-betrayal and self-contempt, which causes depression. All those people who sit around not doing much of anything and don't understand why they feel empty or bland, it's precisely because they're not taking their lives for a good ride by releasing their natural energy. It sits inside of them unused, then their inner voice tells them they're dishonoring themselves. It's not natural to sit around watching TV or reading a novel for hours on end. People are human animals. We were born to be active, not to sit passively in the comfortable, complacent caves we've created for ourselves. You can go out searching for all the excitement, fun, and pleasure the world offers. Most of it loses its luster because the novelty wears off. Some basic things stay, like the craving for sexual pleasure and the craving for intoxicating highs for some people. At the end of all my exploring and adventuring out in the world, I still had my basic sensual needs, but everything else was gone except for my desire to release my natural energy all the time. It's the only thing that gives me a feeling like I'm running with my life the same way an eagle soars. It's my nature. The cheap thrills of the world mean nothing to me next to this. The only happy people are active people. Most other people fake happiness because it's the pro-social thing to do that's constantly pounded into us through all the fake happy performances by all the professional actors on TV. You get no inspired highs or euphoria out of life if you don't release your natural energy with intensity. I tried everything. The happiness of getting high goes when the drug wears off. The happiness of passionate, strong love eventually gives way to a day-by-day connection based on how intimate the players are right now. Sex for me is gone right after I explode. The unused energy sitting inside of you makes you feel average, complacent and mundane. Then as more builds up, you sink into self-betrayal, self-contempt, misery and depression, all because you're not honoring the person you were born to be by nature. This often happens on a subconscious level. I was wondering why I never felt fulfilled or centered when I was living out the yuppie thing, young, upwardly mobile professional, because I was successful according to society's standards. I didn't realize until later that this emptiness was caused by following the artificial values of the world and not my true nature. Our mass media culture has turned us into a bunch of passive wimps, always looking for cheap thrills, comfort, luxury, material goods, good-tasting food and entertainment for our next transient pleasure. This is what the capitalist sales machine has sold us as the key to happiness, but it's a lie. Passive relaxing is great if you've expended some worthy energy for the day, but if you wake up and don't do anything but watch a screen, buy something at the mall and eat food, there's no way in hell you can be happy in the pure sense of the word, because happiness is a feeling like you're on in the flowing sense, like you did something really tough and inspiring and now you're basking in the afterglow. The challenge to live a great life is to always be proving to yourself that you got game, that you have a spring in your step and a sharp mind from riding your life with joy because you love what you do. It's a constant flow of natural energy. If you're not doing tough, challenging things that make you feel like you got a strong, vital inner spark, you have no good quality of life to speak of. Your true, inherent nature. All the knowledge I possess everyone else can acquire, but my heart is all my own. Goethe, 1749–1832. Relationships with other people can't give you inner feelings of self-respect and transcendence. You're either accountable to yourself for your life, or you're just another generic person working some average job, consuming the stuff at the mall and the entertainment on TV. Once you have a sense of inner accountability, you realize that your potential for happiness is inside of you. It's not dependent on fluctuations in the stock market or what other people say about you. It's not about shallow, one-dimensional goals in a capitalist world. It's not about relationships. Most relationships with friends fade away as you each go your own way pursuing your careers. About half of all marriages end in divorce. If you got your inner accountability, you're not going to fall to pieces when you break up, have an argument or some tragedy hits. You have your pity party for a day, a week, or a month, then you keep going on, being accountable to your inner standard. People who don't have this base have no anchor within themselves. You have to release your natural energy all the time to feel like you're honoring yourself. If you don't, your life will be a set of meaningless random experiences. You'll have a constant gnawing feeling of emptiness all the time, a sense that you're not quite manifesting your genetic seed to its limits, not living a full life of joy and ease. Nobody knows what anybody else is really thinking. We're all loners stuck in our heads, but a person's body and face indicate to others who they are and how they live. You can tell who's tapped into their true natures and who isn't. It's basic and primal. Everything else is image and bull from the world that unenlightened people use to hide behind. This is how simple life really is, but we created complex billion-dollar self-help, psychobabble industries that are all artificial next to an individual following their true nature. Nothing any individual does works unless they align what they do with who they feel they were born to be by nature. Most people never stop to contemplate whether they have a true inherent nature, but we all do. They allow themselves to get brainwashed by default. They don't question what they're taught or examine themselves beyond the parameters the system has set up for them, so they take on the reward system from the world, which is to aspire to make lots of money and be recognized by others as an elite or important person. They buy into the concept that the more material things they own, the happier they'll be, and consuming pop culture entertainment is fun, therefore pleasurable. They don't test any of this conventional wisdom out to see if it's true. They just accept it without ever exploring their lives to discover that happiness is the result of culturing a strong spirit by doing the things that inspire you and make you feel good about your life. Anybody's house can burn down, or they can crash their car. Anybody can lose a fortune due to fluctuations in the marketplace, anybody can get laid off, anybody's relatives can get killed, anybody can break up or get estranged from their loved ones, and anybody can get sick. Relationships take up at the most 10% of your time, actually communicating with a friend or loved one in an intimate way. The other 90% of your time is spent alone in your head. Great intimate relationships aren't enough to keep you feeling good all the time, because if you want the best that life has to offer, you have to be proud of yourself through what you do alone. Money can't give you a strong spirit. You can buy what you need, then after that, money can't give you self-respect, a good feeling or pleasure that lasts for more than a few minutes. Buy a big mansion or a shiny sports car. What can that do to make you feel happy and inspired about your life that's different than you living in a cottage driving a used car? It's all an illusion created by capitalism, because life is lived through your spirit, not what you're surrounded by. All these people think that when they win the lottery and buy their big mansion, they'll have a permanent smile on their face and their state of being will go up by a quantum leap, but nothing will change. They'll feel excited for the first day, then on the second day they'll wake up to feel the same old mundane them. The only thing you own is your free spirit. You either purge your natural energy every day to keep it strong, or you don't. If you don't, you have no quality of life according to my free spirit standard. You're living on a mundane flat line, going along, earning money, consuming material things, filling your mind up with the mass media and trying to find happiness through other people, but it never works because it's you alone in your own head living your life every day. You either create happiness within your being through what you do or don't. Every morning when you wake up, you have a certain amount of natural energy inside of you. If you release most of it by the end of the day, you will feel connected to your primal noble essence and feel good about yourself for that day. If you don't, you will feel anywhere from average comfort to downright miserable. The key to happiness is releasing your natural energy all the time. The more you purge, the better you feel. The less you purge, the more depressed you get. I'm talking happiness as a euphoric emotion, not as a bland feeling of comfortable complacency. Releasing artificial energy doesn't count. When you do things you're not naturally interested in, such as working a job you're not thrilled about or studying something in school that bores you, you don't get the aesthetic-inspired effects that releasing natural energy gives you. If you do nothing but sit around and passively absorb some kind of entertainment, You can't feel any higher than an average mood because happiness in the euphoric sense is the result of releasing one's spirit to let it go free and possibly soar for a while. It takes action. You can't get it reading a book, watching a screen or talking to your friends. These are passive, minor activities. They can't help the spirit soar to its fullest heights. Release the natural energy within you and you feel good because you're hitting a level of exertion where everything kicks in, the physiological release of endorphins, feeling self-respect because you're doing something you deem tough or worthy, the inspired effects of releasing natural energy and the freeing effects of the activity on your spirit. Don't release your natural energy, it sits inside of you unused and makes you feel out of sorts. You're betraying your true nature. It's that simple. The things I do are a joy for me. To most people, they would be hard, unpleasant or boring work, but my nature tells me to purge my physical, creative, and intellectual energy all the time with intensity like I mean it in order to enjoy my life and feel strong and vital. I'm tapped into my natural flow. You have to find out what makes you tick, then do it. There are plenty of inspired young people around tapped into intrinsically fulfilling activities at grade schools and college campuses, but a lot of them stop by about 27 years old then wonder why they feel mundane. Chapter 2. I just want truth. Free yourself from mundanity. I release my free spirit all the time. I'm being who I am the way I was born. Most of us are self-centered hedonists by nature, even though it's very unpopular to admit you're focused on your own pleasure. Human beings are territorial by nature. Most are interested in their own self-preservation and comfort first before they care about their fellow man, but almost nobody except for people like me admits to this. You shouldn't feel guilty about who you were born to be just because they taught you to follow artificial values not inherent to who you really are in grade school. Most of us are hypocrites. It's no big deal to admit this. I know I'm a hypocrite as much as the next guy. It's only normal to put yourself on a higher pedestal morally in your delusions than everybody else. We like to think we're good, kind people, but we're hoarding our wealth living in frivolous comfort while people are in pain and starving all over the world and we conveniently ignore it. Many of us are self-centered workaholics, working for some vision we have of a more pleasurable life far off in the future when we make a certain amount of money or reach some other milestone in enhancing our position at work, but it will never happen because life is as you live it day by day. It's not some fantasy of a materially enhanced life in the future. It's about how you culture your spirit to keep it strong and free every day, or how you don't do this, therefore degenerate into either a pompous ass basing your worth on image and status, a couch potato always looking for a thrill on a screen, or a mundane person addicted to something to cope with inner feelings of emptiness. You have to teach yourself how to feel good every day of your life. The first part is to develop the means to pay your way to the point of basic comfort, not luxury, just enough to get the material things you need to live a materially basic life. Anything more is excess, which is a sin against Mother Earth as far as I'm concerned. All animals out in nature take what they need and nothing more. The only greedy ones are humans and the animals domesticated by them. After this, you have to figure out who you were born to be by nature, then simply release most of that natural energy every day, enough to feel good, stimulated and inspired, but not so much that it wears you out. Artists, inventors, and other people passionately interested in something are like this. They love what they do so much they'll do it for 15 hours a day, every day. I'm saying do it for 12 to 13 hours, then cut it off to save yourself for the long run. My natural energy is mostly inspired energy, then a little bit of sexual sensual hedonistic energy, the pursuit of pleasure for its own sake kinda like sex and mind-altering substances, and a little bit of loving energy, to give intimate love to a person or a pet and get some back. The pursuit of love and sex is good, but most of your life is spent alone in your head. You have to discover what makes you tick and purge it all the time, otherwise you'll be a lost soul like many people in the modern world are, because they've been brainwashed by fake ideologies that don't do anything to set their free spirits soaring on high. This is the answer on how to live the best life possible every day. It's the fountain of youth, the key to longevity and the path to a happy life. Every day I release most of the natural energy inside of me to match my inherent standard of the person I feel I was born to be. At the same time, I'm consciously looking out for things that people want me to do that are based on artificial values from out in the world, not on my natural values. I'm also focused on giving my mind up to the world agenda, which is constantly blasting at me through the mass media and the people I talk to, who are all following it to some extent, therefore passing it on to me. I try to minimize it. My TV is on in the background while I work on my computer, but I watch things that are interesting and educational to me, not the mainstream news nor pop culture entertainment shows, which I see as massive indoctrination with no worthwhile value. I stay pure in the midst of all this capitalist indoctrination coming at me, which I'm contemptuous of, this marketing machine trying to give people their ideas of what a cool person is by trying to sell them something. How about hair color and nose rings for women and earrings and ties on men for starters? A truly cool person is an individual strong enough to be themselves. That's my message in this book. Don't let the massive marketing indoctrination machine pollute you. Stay true to who you are by nature in the midst of this massive tidal wave of cultural indoctrination always coming at you. Some of these ideas might be good to help you live a better life, but at the end of the day, it should always be about keeping a strong free spirit for your own sake. You got multi-billion-dollar self-help, psychobabble, new age, religious psychology industries that all amount to a minor tingle of mild inspiration at best. If you want to live by some rules some phony expert created because they're pretending they're more advanced than you, go ahead. It'll all break down within a week or so, because we're naturally more primal, noble, and intuitive than psychobabble, even if we don't know it. Your truth should be your nature, not the habits of highly effective people. You are who you are by nature, not by cultural indoctrination. If you want to live by 7 habits of highly effective people, Dr. Bobo's 10 life strategies, or someone else's 14 steps to a better you, go ahead, but they're all artificial values next to who you really are by nature, which means they're all a lie. They can't work for very long because they violate your true nature. They always leave you with a sense of emptiness. It just shows how different I am from all this conventional psychobabble wisdom. I'm intuitive and flowing. They're all following the capitalist model, define life, happiness, and success in terms of X number of discrete steps, which are mechanical and artificial. It proves to me why none of them get it, even the ones with the big selling books. They're all trying to break life down into several steps, but it's not about steps, it's about your natural archetypes. Life for any person should be his or her search for their truth. If my search got me to this free-spirited lifestyle, it's all good. There must be a reason the Creator made me this way. It's honesty that I can hold up and you can look at to help you find your truth without feeling guilty about all the propaganda they taught you and me in grade school about following artificial values. I don't have to pretend I'm good and kind if I'm not feeling it like most people, since most of us are overwhelmingly self-centered as opposed to good and kind, despite what rosy, idealistic self-delusions we live by. How can anyone be good and kind if they're living in a house bigger than what they need with lots of material things for comfort and pleasure, while thousands of kids die every day because of starvation and lack of medical treatment? This is the hypocrisy that I grew up with all around me in my whitewashed neighborhood. People would go to church on Sunday, then go back to their middle to upper class homes acting holy in a fake way, callous to the plight of all the suffering people in pain out there that we were all perfectly aware of. Look around your house. How much of your material possessions are useless things you don't need, like all that home decor stuff and all those trendy clothes? Don't forget the hair extensions and the fabulashes. For men, how about those ATVs and jet skis? What's the thrill of sitting on a motorized vehicle driving around? It's not like you did anything tough that made you feel like a racehorse giving hard effort to expend his energy to reach his limits for a minute or two. That's what gives you self-respect. Go in for your limits. I pursued my truth until I discovered who I am by nature. Now I follow it every day by releasing most of my natural energy to that end. It's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in all that pop culture junk most people spend most of their leisure time on. It's a waste of life to buy into that fake world of phony cool people all trying to sell you something with their manufactured images. Constantly expressing the energy inside of me gives me feelings of euphoria and power day by day. It's kinda like an intuitive flow of riding my life. Explore yourself, discover your true identity, then purge this natural energy all the time. When you express your true nature, you're doing it to satisfy the angst inside of you given to you by your God, so that's your version of truth. You're here to share your truth with other people to help them find their truth. I wrote all those books that I branded as Transformer books because that's part of who I am, a thinker, a natural intellectual and a creative bohemian. It's one of my few archetypes. I could have spent my life sitting around thinking my thoughts then letting them go without writing them down, but I figured this is what I do anyway by nature, might as well do something useful with it that other people can benefit from. There's nothing wrong with being self-centered enough to search for what talents your creator gave you and to explore them. Somewhere along the way, you'll start to feel good about yourself and want to share your truth with other people. That's what you were created to do, not just to work some average job somewhere and spend the rest of your time being a passive spectator consumer. To me, it's a sin against life when people throw away the possibility of exploring and expressing themselves to do the useless things the world parades at them as pleasure, like watching stupid shows on TV, playing video games, reading silly novels, or chatting on the internet. Get a life, your pure life, if you got the guts to do it. How to feel good every day. The indoctrinating forces of the government, religion, and the capitalist sales machine tell us that happiness is a fixed commodity. You get it after you've achieved certain benchmarks that they've defined, namely marriage, children, a decent job, ownership of a house and a car with the ability to make the loan payments. This might make you satisfied that you're following society's rules and are relatively successful by these standards, but it's nowhere near what you're really feeling or thinking in the freest part of your brain. This is the big quandary: follow society's rules and conventions of what happiness is, or follow your own. Most people follow society's rules at least until middle age, when they start to realize they're not really happy but don't understand why, because they've been so massively brainwashed that they can't think outside of that capitalist pop culture box they're living in. They tell you to be monogamous even though most men aren't really monogamous in spirit. They tell you raising kids is a key to happiness even though many people aren't maternal or paternalistic. They tell you to choose a career from the 500 or so options they offer, but many people have interests other than these options. You got a few natural archetypes that you were born with. An archetype is a vision you intuitively get in your mind's eye of who you were born to be or could be in your fullest, finest moments. When you're young, these visions come spontaneously here and there. Then when you figure it out, life is reduced to following these few archetypes, at least it was for me. There was Tarzan, free thinker, intellectual, bohemian, artist, hippie and sorcerer/shaman. Everything else is the brainwash of the world. You have your fantasies, then you have the real world. Somewhere in between there is the greatest life you can possibly live with what resources you have available to you. How do you feel good every day? The answer is not in working a routine job, because routine jobs get stale then sap the soul. If any person wants to feel as alive as he or she can possibly be, they have to do something physically, mentally, aesthetically, and spiritually tough, stimulating or challenging every day. It's the only way you can earn self-respect and feel great. We are our bodies, minds, imaginations, and souls as one holistic essence. Enlightenment is to treat all these entities as one unit and purge that energy all the time. If you don't, you're not very smart despite what image you're putting on for the world. Happiness is a fluid commodity that changes day by day as a result of what you do or don't do. You have a baseline of happiness directly proportional to how strong your spirit is. You can measure the strength of your spirit by how much of your natural energy you release day by day over time. The longer you do this, the stronger you get. If you don't do this, the best you can feel is average. You can go all the way down to self-contempt for betraying your true nature by letting it rot away inside of you unused. This is what's really going on in the human condition. The emotions of happiness and sadness are influenced by tragedies, bad luck, and relationship problems, but the heart of a person's state of well-being is how much they honor themselves by releasing their natural energy with gusto every day. The only truly happy people are people who purge themselves of their natural inspired, sensual, hedonistic and loving energy all the time. Everybody else lives at a lower quality of life than this. The more you're on in releasing the natural energy in your free spirit with passion, gusto, and joy, the better you'll feel. The less of your natural energy you release on any given day, the more lethargic and mundane to depressed you feel. Happiness is a function of how much you exercise or stimulate your free spirit for the day. All you have to do is live a life where you're releasing most of the energy in your free spirit all the time. It's the key to longevity and the only way you can possibly feel good every day forever. I tried everything: money, drugs, passive entertainment, material excess, luxury, food, alcohol, sex and love. Sex and love are fine, but at the most you can only spend 10% of your time on each because you have physical limitations and you're still a loner stuck in your head talking to yourself most of the time. Even after you've loved your lover as best as you can, you still have to answer to your own sense of self-respect and well-being. You just can't sit there and say, "I love my family," and think that your life will be peachy cream, because it won't. You have to do tough, worthy things all the time to earn your sense of self-respect and bring your body, mind, and soul up to a transcendent level of consciousness through these activities. People often feel empty or deficient if they don't have a connection with a loved one, a friend, or humanity at large, which is all fine and good, but it's transient, it's out of your control to some extent, and it still doesn't give you value within yourself. Nowadays we have electronic connections. People go on the internet to befriend strangers they'll probably never meet in real life. They talk, text, chat, email, read about other people's lives on blogs and Twitter. They even have cybersex, but to me it's just another symptom of a lost society, people trying to fill up an emptiness within themselves by connecting to friendly strangers in cyberspace. It never works. It can't fill the hole only you can fill. When I was a young guy, I was all up for socializing and meeting new people because I was looking for the answers to life through other people and something to fill me up in the moment, but after a lot of that, I started realizing that other people are as lost as I was back then, feeling lonely about my state of existential loneliness, until I realized I create my own life as I live it. I can't get neurotic about anything, just do the best I can with what I got day by day. If I can reach a level of exertion in any of the few things I really like to do, such that I abandon conscious reality for a while and enter an alpha wave state where I'm in a flow or a zone of freedom, even if I'm expending myself hard, it sets my mood for the rest of the day. I just have to do it again the next day. If I keep doing it day after day, I win the game of life. I say our society is lost because I see very few people living by their true, inherent natures the way they were born to. Most people are living massively brainwashed lives, following something they picked up from society, not following who they really are deep down as pure beings away from all that stuff. Life is still basic and primal even in the internet age. Chatting aimlessly on some social networking website won't fulfill you. Neither will posting your profile up on myspace.com or linking to several hundred friends on Facebook. This is all a distraction from man's real purpose in life, to connect with whatever is divine within himself that created him. Some force, it could be God, it could nature, gave you an inherent, fixed nature. If you ever reach enlightenment, you discover this nature away from everything you've ever been brainwashed by and live by it for the rest of your life. You manifest or release whatever sense of spirit or natural energy you feel within yourself. The only people who are happy are people who do this all the time. Most other people confuse comfort with happiness, but there's a big qualitative difference between pacified mundanity and a euphoric release of one's free spirit. Become who you were born to be by nature for your own sake. Don't just try to develop some fake image you got from the mass media and the propaganda put out by the government. Create self-worth by doing something that you consider tough, inspired, euphoric, meaningful, worthwhile or worthy. Trying to curb your sense of existential loneliness by talking to someone might be good to help make you feel connected to the human race for a few minutes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't give you a connection with the most important relationship in your life, you connecting to the free spirit inside of you given to you by your Creator/God. Happiness is euphoria, not comfort. It doesn't matter how popular or famous you are, how many friends you have, and how many brothers, sisters, parents, spouses, and children love you. You still have an inner accountability to yourself that only you can honor, but most people won't. They will betray it by getting brainwashed by the world to follow other values, thereby not honoring who they were born to be by nature. Then they'll wonder why, despite all their apparent success out in the world, they still feel like they ain't quite there with their lives. This is the big unsung tragedy of human life in the modern world. It's like your cat. He wants you to love him and cuddle him, but at the end of the day, he still is who he is. Your love for him and his love for you should not affect his inner wisdom of knowing who he was created to be by nature. You better let him out so he can do his rounds prowling the neighborhood, because that's what he was born to do, and if he doesn't do it, over time, his spirit degenerates to mundanity, passivity, then depression. It doesn't die, but it can get buried so deeply that he loses a strong connection to it, such that he becomes another fat, lazy cat with no spring in his step or gleam in his eye. We live in a society based on sales. The marketing machine tries to sell us a good feeling through religion, patriotism, new ageism, self-help psychobabble, material stuff, and pop culture entertainment, but nobody ever tells you it's all about you connecting to the Creator that created you by trusting your inner voice and following it. That's the most powerful force you can possibly live by. The marketing machine wants to keep you stupid and brainwashed, so you keep buying into these advertising cliches they're preaching at you, always looking for a transient thrill, but they're all wrong and fraudulent. The deal of the enlightened human condition is that you keep your spirit strong all the time for life. Money, food, gadgets, fame, status, or love will not give you a strong mind, body or soul, nor a good to great feeling about yourself all the time. You earn a high sense of well-being by honoring who you were born to be, by releasing the natural energy that exists in your free spirit. That's it. There's nothing more. Nothing elevates my mood as much as doing physical, intellectual, creative, sensual, hedonistic, and loving activities all the time. That's when I'm alive and in my element. Sex is great. Recreational substances are fun. It's great to be in love, but none of these things can give you a sustained sense of self-respect, euphoria, and well-being. The bulk of energy an enlightened person releases is always inspired energy. Most other people are trying to earn more money, advance higher up in their career, eat more food, drink more booze, buy more toys, or watch more movies in order to feel some kind of happy tingle, but it's all transient next to what you yourself do to honor the pure free spirit inside of you day after day, forever. If you don't do it, you lose your connection to yourself bit by bit, day by day, until you look like most of my friends from college look now, like overfed, middle-aged, mundane men and women with pudgy stomachs, receding hairlines, bald spots, and pasty faces. They lost a connection to their free spirits. They didn't have to, but they did by the way they lived their lives. What's the good of life if you're an overweight, used up, stressed out load of generic mundanity by 50, working some dull job, taking some mental health drug, being a passive consumer spectator of all that junk they're selling you on the tube? Everybody's always talking about happiness as being a warm, supportive family, a steady job, and some money in the bank. This is kinda like lukewarm tea happiness or limp, low blood flow happiness. It's like, so what? Would you rather have hot tea and a strong thrust? If you don't constantly culture a strong spirit, you end up with a generic, flatline life, and after that happens, you're permanently in a funk on the way to depression. Nobody fools me. I take one look at some of those guys acting happy because they're following society's rules of success and happiness, and I know they ain't got a happy, strong free spirit. You can sense there's something missing. It's the intensity of doing something that makes you feel passionate or on fire for something, your life. If you don't get a sense of transcendence and self-respect through what you do every day, you're just another low-level consumer working a generic job. There's no passion or intensity there. There's no pure primal expression. There's no free-flowing joy. There's no freedom of expression because you're following indoctrinated values. I know you have to earn a living, but you should be smart enough to do something you really want to do while at the same time not getting sucked into the lies that bigger houses and more cars will increase your happiness proportional to their price tags, or the fact that other people give you respect because of your position at work. Once you're out of that position, this respect from your employees is gone. You gotta respect yourself. If you're a button-down conformist to somebody else's agenda, not yours, you've lost the game of life. What's love got to do with it? You got three major problems of life: taking care of basic, practical needs, being happy with yourself, having loving relationships with people you want to be close to. To me it's simple. I spend most of my time honoring who I was born to be by nature, both to earn me a living and to feel good within myself. After you got these things covered, love should be easy. Love the one you're with. If you're happy within yourself, relationships should be no sweat. Pass some of your happiness on. I think one of the biggest unexplored reasons for broken marriages and relationship problems is that people are messed up, which to me means that they're not living by their true natures, so they're not in harmony with themselves. Because they're not in harmony with themselves as individuals, they can't be loving in a pure, simple way. Care enough about your life to strive to be true to who you are purely, not what you were brainwashed to be. If you can live like that, relationships should be easy because they're just an afterthought to your main allegiance of honoring who you are. After you release the natural energy in your soul on any given day, you should be feeling good. You want to pass some of your love on simply without drama or psychobabble. Frustrated people, angry with their own lives, use relationships as a dumping ground for their problems of individual identity. I don't have those problems. I never give anyone a hard time. If someone gives me a hard time, I'm gone. I don't deal with them. It's really simple. If someone gets in my face, I look at it as disrespect. They don't really love me if they disrespect me, so I distance myself from that particular person. People who love each other don't give each other a hard time. You have to find friends and lovers who aren't gonna dump some of their anger at life on you. Loving relationships aren't enough for you to live a great life because you alone live it. Other people cannot give you a sense of self-respect or a sustained good feeling about yourself. In modern society, the quest for love is mostly a marketing tool to try to get people to become predictable, eternal consumers, always trying to impress each other so they can find a mate and end up living a comfortable family life in the suburbs. This is happiness as defined by mainstream society, yet I don't see very many happy people out there who look like they're enjoying their lives in the transcendent sense every day. Every morning when you wake up, the only person you answer to is yourself. Everybody is a loner. It's the natural human condition, although it's very unpopular to admit that all of us live alone in our own thoughts most of the time and will never click with another human being perfectly all the time. Nobody fits like a glove soulmate-wise with anybody else simply because our fantasies are much more lurid than real life could ever possibly be. There's a big rift between your fantasies and your real life. There's also a big rift between your fantasies and everybody else's fantasies. This is the chasm of differences between every human being on the planet. We're all blobs of flesh walking around with our own self-centered, idealistic, utopian visions. We connect here and there, but we always go back to our own private fantasies, and that's the way it is. Beyond this, most relationships aren't exactly red hot on fire with passion. They're more like roommates rather than soul-stirring, romantic, loving relationships. If you can't feel full and good by yourself alone, nothing from the world can give it to you, not even love. A lover can enhance your happiness if you're already happy by yourself alone, but if you're not happy by yourself as an individual, a relationship won't magically enhance your state of being. You might delude yourself into thinking it does because of all the brainwash associated with romance being the key to happiness, but it doesn't. Self-honor does. You're proud of yourself because of what you do. You can't be a great lover of others unless you first feel fulfilled in your own skin. Other people can't help your sense of self-respect and well-being. They can tell you they love and support you. They can give you all kinds of compliments, hugs, trophies, awards, and be there when you need a friend. These things might feel nice for a minute, but they can't give you a feeling of harmony within yourself. You have to earn it by yourself. This is the massive mistake many millions make. They think that falling in love will magically clean up their feelings of existential loneliness, but you're still gonna spend most of your time alone in your own head, and you're still gonna have to answer to that sense of inner accountability within yourself. Romantic love can't give you the self-respect and sense of well-being only you can give yourself by purging your natural energy with intensity and love for the process day after day. You feel light and free by purging energy. Live by your natural free spirit, not by what the world feeds you. The more you listen to yourself and the less you fill yourself up with the world's knowledge except for the natural laws of science and math, the stronger, purer and freer you'll be. There are other laws created by people that we have to follow, like civil and criminal laws, but beyond that, your life is yours as a loner, autonomous being in the universe. The wisest people figure out how to stay inspired and happy every day by following their true natures. Everybody else is either brainwashed, following some ideology or delusion they got from the outside world, or lazy consumer spectators who want nothing more than good-tasting food, a big TV and other cheap thrills they can buy at the mall. It's the biggest unsung tragedy in modern life, people plugging into the lifestyles constantly being sold through the mass media and formal institutions at the expense of following the natural, inherent spark for their lives that they were born with. This natural, inherent spark that everybody has at birth is freely expressed in most children living in well-to-do, reasonably liberal homes until they're about 5 years old, when grade school starts to channel their free spirits into a homogeneous, standard lifestyle. By the time we're 18, most of us have sold our free spirits for the consumption of something from the outside world, like the pursuit of capitalist success, materialism, pop culture entertainment, good-tasting food, video games, New Age ideologies, the social sciences, self-help psychobabble, religion, the stock market, the mainstream news, or the drama of mainstream politics. It's all indoctrination. None of these things are naturally inherent to you. You were born totally free to live your life according to how you see fit, as long as you pay your way, follow the civil and criminal laws, and don't hurt other people. But the pursuit of a lifestyle following your natural whims and interests gets lost somewhere in the midst of the capitalist formal education pop culture paper chase. You weren't born with a natural desire to try to make a lot more money than you need so you can buy useless things and impress others with how superior you are. You weren't born as a citizen of a particular country that you're emotionally attached to. You're a citizen of the world. God made one planet Earth and one human race. Everything after this is the foolish games people play. All the stuff from out there was thrust over the pure being you were born as. You fell for it. How much of your mind do you own versus how much is somebody else's idea superimposed over your true nature as an individual human entity? The only way anybody can find happiness in the pure, transcendent sense is to firstly discover who they are as free beings, then develop a way to live true to it every day. No amount of money, material things, friends, the consumption of entertainment, drugs, booze, hot dogs, or even love can make an individual feel good all the time. The only way to do it is to constantly release the natural energy you feel inside of you to be the person you feel you were born to be by nature. Everything else in life fades except for this one thing that will keep you feeling good and your spirit strong if you follow it all the time. If you don't, your mind firstly goes to an average, mundane state of consciousness, and if you keep neglecting your natural energy, you eventually get depressed because you're betraying your true nature, which is all any human being really owns. Using up your natural energy is doing what you love to do, what you're naturally drawn to, something that you can become absorbed in such that you lose all sense of time. Doing this raises your state of consciousness above the average, generic mundane state of the human condition, which is pacified comfort. Pacified comfort is a state of mind where you're not feeling much pain except for what negative thoughts you might create in your mind, but at the same time, you're not feeling the potential highs that inspired sensual passionate people feel all the time, because they live to be in that zone where they're freeing themselves from the regular mundanity of the generic human condition. If you're doing something where you're always looking at the clock, wanting to get out of there, such as with a job or schooling you don't like, it doesn't help you get to that place where you feel good and right about your life, where you're riding it like a surfer rides a wave, with freedom, abandonment, intuition, and flow, enjoying it. It might earn you a paycheck, but it won't make you happy. Our society is constantly selling us the image of romantic, mythical love as the key to happiness in life, but it's not, simply because there are at least two things more important on a more fundamental individual level. To have the means for basic survival, namely food and shelter. To feel like you're doing the right things with your life that you were born to do by nature. The psychobabblists call this self-esteem. If you want a strong spirit every day for the rest of your life, you have to earn it. You can't allow yourself to become a pacified wimp consumer spectator, always looking to be entertained by something from the pop culture realm to give you some cheap, momentary thrill. A real human being doesn't waste their time on meaningless pursuits to try to fill some vague sense of emptiness they feel within themselves. You have to have the guts to be true to yourself. Only you alone can earn self-respect and a good feeling within yourself through what you do. If you don't, it doesn't matter what you got materially, how famous you are, or how many people love you, you miss the whole purpose of life, which is to intuitively live by your true nature. If you don't have the space of well-being within yourself, your life is pretty well a mundane to miserable affair. There's some manner of disharmony inside of you, so you can't possibly be a good-natured, fun, loving person, unless you're faking it, because you got this inner turmoil you're dealing with. My standard is that every day of my life, I use up most of the natural energy that is inside of me when I wake up to do something tough and / or worthy to set my spirit soaring on high, that makes me feel worthy of who my God created me to be. This separates the real winners of life from the losers. If you don't strive to match that inherent standard inside of you of who you could be in your finest moments every day, you have no real quality of life beyond the cheap thrills of pop culture entertainment, gossip, stuff you can buy at the mall, and for religious types, the comfort of being a member of the church. All these things always leave you empty. You'll never have the feeling of perfect harmony people get if and when they follow their true natures with inspiration, intensity, and love for the process over a long period of time. It's not like setting goals in the artificial worlds of capitalist ambition. It's more like riding the intuitive flow of your life. All you have to do is figure out a way to earn a living from it. Somewhere deep down inside, everyone has an inherent standard of who they were born to be or could be in their most ideal moments, but almost nobody is aware that they have this natural archetype, and even fewer people follow it because most of us have been massively brainwashed by the artificial values of the world. At the core of your being, there's just you, a naked, pure soul with your own inherent standard of life. The only thing anyone answers to that means anything is the inner wisdom within themselves, but you have to peel off all the delusions and bullshit from the world first before you realize this. All you have to do is release a good load of the pure natural energy you should feel in your soul every morning when you wake up. This is how you earn your self-respect and sense of well-being one day at a time. It's the only thing that can possibly keep you feeling good for the rest of your life. Not even romantic love can do this, because all love fades as a physiological fact after 18 months, and you're always still a loner in your head who has to answer to himself all the time. Chapter 3. You own your body and soul, that's it? Positive thinking without action is a new age delusion. All the psychobabble in the world about thinking positive thoughts and having good intentions means nothing if there's no action attached to it. Remember, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's why you shouldn't listen to all that lying new age crap going around about the secret of good intentions or the power of intention and attraction, because everybody thinks they got good intentions, even the most despicable criminal in the world. So what? It's really funny with all this lying, Scam law of attraction hype going around. Why nobody ever mentions why are wise men of peace like Socrates, Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Bobby Kennedy, and John Lennon all attracted assassination into their lives by their benevolent work. I seem to remember being taught in physics that like repels like. It doesn't attract it. A positive atom repels another positive atom. A negative atom repels another negative atom. They're trying to say there's some law in the universe where you give off certain vibrations from your thoughts and intentions, and in turn you attract the same vibrations to get abundance by some silly force only these slicksters know about. If this is true, why are so many artists starving? They have the greatest, dreamiest, most noble intentions of everybody. On top of that, everybody is self-centered enough to be always thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you or your good vibes. They're thinking about themselves, so that law of attraction crap is a big lie geared to sell stupid people books, because people en masse generally don't care about your good intentions. They care about their own pleasure and comfort. If you can help them with that, good for you, but you'll never get the thanks and respect you think you deserve, because human nature starts at self-centered and goes to either good or bad depending on mood. If you don't believe me, you're a delusional fool. If you want true, unconditional love, get a pet and love it. The New Agers are telling you to think positive thoughts and have good intentions to get everything you want through some secret snake oil they sell called the law of attraction. Positive thoughts can be devastating because they set a lot of people up for depression when their capitalist pop culture delusions of grandeur don't come to pass. You can think all the positive thoughts you want about being a superstar athlete. If you just think those thoughts without action, you won't get there. If you think those thoughts, work your ass off and still don't become a superstar athlete, it's a combination of the lack of natural ability and the randomness of life that caused it. You're good, but so are a lot of other people. You didn't get picked for the team. You can think all the positive thoughts you want about being debt-free, but at the end of the day, week, month, or year, if you still owe money, you get depressed because your positive thoughts didn't erase the debt. If you live every day true to who you are and release most of the natural energy in your soul, you're not setting yourself up for any false expectations. You're living day by day, true to yourself. You either honor yourself or betray yourself day by day, one day at a time. At the end of every day, you get your sense of well-being or mundanity to misery through how much natural energy from the power in your soul you either released or didn't release today. I intuitively know if I honored myself today or betrayed myself. It's easy. How good do I feel? I feel good if I've released most of the natural positive energy in my soul. I feel anywhere from average to bad if I didn't. Multiply this by how you've lived for most of the past 5,000 days. That's who you really are, away from everything you do to culture a certain image about yourself to others. Your thoughts are negligible. Thoughts are cheap, just like talk is cheap, because anyone can have great thoughts and talk eloquently. Your actions are who you really are. Everybody claims to have great, noble intentions, even the laziest couch potatoes around, so what? That's why positive thinking is the big fake new age gimmick. It sets you up to expect something. I create my life, therefore my thoughts, through what I do day by day, not the other way around. My thoughts are just random ideas. They don't mean anything unless I make them happen through my efforts. My actions make me feel good and think good thoughts. Without them, I would not be happy no matter how many positive thoughts I have. My thoughts by themselves do nothing unless I act on them. They can even be dangerous if they fill you up with dreamy, idealistic delusions or wishful thinking at the expense of living in the real world. You attract nothing to you by the illusory New Age laws of attraction. You create your sense of well-being through what you yourself do. The universe doesn't just give you what you want because you generate some vibrations through your thoughts. It's like get real. Live in the real world. If this was true, all the starving artists out there would be multimillionaires because, as a group, they have the greatest, most idealistic visions and ideas of anyone in society. If your life is the pits yet you constantly live in a Pollyanna-like delusion of rose-colored glasses where your life is a fantasy and you do nothing about it day by day but think those positive thoughts because some new age guru said you would attract what you want, you're setting yourself up for a free fall in a moment of clarity and reality when you see that you're living a lame life of false hope based on fraudulent new age lies. Happiness or success are not fixed entities as the capitalist, mainstream world wants you to think. They're trying to tell you that if you reach certain milestones, they will permanently elevate your state of consciousness forever, like if you graduate from college, get married, reach middle management, make $1 million, etc. But happiness in the euphoric, transcendent sense as opposed to a comfortably numb mundane feeling of happiness can only be achieved one a day at a time through what you do. Suppose you have a great day today. It doesn't matter what you did but you feel really great. Tomorrow, two things will happen. The great feeling from today will be long gone. You will feel slightly tired as an automatic reaction to all the energy you expended on the previous great day you had. If you don't release most of the natural energy within your being on that day, tomorrow, you'll have anywhere from an average to miserable day. There will be no highs. The highs come from the satisfied feeling you get when you expend a lot of natural energy. Some people call it riding on air, the flow, or being unconscious. The reason I know this is because I lived through all of it. I achieved some of the system's markers of success, did what I thought was right according to the system, and I still wasn't happy. The only way I got happy was by realizing who I was, then releasing my natural energy to honor my identity day after day, one day at a time. As long as I'm expending my natural energy, I feel fine. If I miss it for a day or two, my mood goes down because I'm betraying my true potential in life. If someone never releases their natural energy anymore, like many people over 25 who spend their time following the artificial values of the world in their pursuit of career success, then plugging into pop culture entertainment and consumerism, their spirits become flabby and their bodies follow. This is exactly why almost no one is happy in the transcendent sense. They're not tapped into who they really are and releasing that energy. They're either working jobs they're not thrilled about or sitting on their asses plugging into some spectator junk from the world. Self-esteem just means how close you are to who you want to be. The only way to become who you want to be is by releasing a good dose of your natural energy all the time without fail. How many people do this? The drug companies love the state of society. They make billions of dollars off depression and anxiety drugs, but drugs can't help a problem in a person's spirit. What do you do to elevate your free spirit or keep it strong every day? Most people do nothing. It doesn't rate into their consciousness, but plain and simple, it's the only thing that really matters over a lifetime, because everything is transient but this. Even your kids will leave you and go their own way, but you'll still be there with your spirit. It will be weak or strong as a result of what you do or don't do. Your body reflects your spirit. Fat, flabby, weak, sickly bodies mean weak spirits. Take that to the bank. 68% of the American population is overweight by 20 or more pounds, then we wonder people ain't exactly gloriously happy. It's not rocket science, but as far as I can see, no one figured it out but me. Just about everybody has been brainwashed by some fake ideology. It's not about being out there making some illusory in-crowd scene simply because all the social events and entertainment venues are basically you looking for something out there to give you some kind of a good feeling. After a while, it's all the same. For every party-hardy jet-setter, the party always ends when you find that you're older than everybody else making the scene and you don't fit in anymore. The coolest MF on the planet feels like a doofus if he walks into the current coolest nightclub at 43 years old and everyone in there is under 28. Then what? You've just been relegated to has-been status. It happens to everyone who was once part of the cool in crowd. You get older, fatter, uglier, cornier. What do you do now? Find a new crowd of older hipsters playing bridge, golf, or ballroom dancing, hang around the redneck bar with a bunch of old fogies, watch TV, surf the internet as a fake character, avatar, in Second Life, or do you find yourself and live your own life by your own standards away from all that stuff out there? Follow yourself or the artificial world around you. The prize of life is to do things that are interesting and stimulating to you, that use up your natural energy. Doing things artificial to you, like working a job you don't like or doing passive things like watching TV, can't get you to an elevated state of consciousness. Do what's inspired and enjoyable from your soul with enough intensity such that you got game, a constant flow of euphoria, fun, and ease. The psychobablists call it the peak experience or Zen. You can live like this day after day. Just do what you love that's productive and can earn you enough money so you don't have to worry about it like all the regular people do, because they're living by lower level capitalist values where they're plodding along, doing things not inherent to them, trying to become rich and famous according to artificial rules rather than living for the love of their own lives. Why do people like Michelangelo and Thomas Edison live long lives? Because they're following their true nature. This is the great chasm of differences between free, enlightened people and everyone else. Free, enlightened people live true to who they really are by nature. Everybody else is following somebody else or some ideology of life, like capitalism, the quest for money and status, pop culture entertainment, trying to be cool and popular, New Ageism, following some hokey ideas, and religion, bowing down to a phantom some human being created and called God, Yahweh, Buddha, or Vishnu. After you discover the natural force inside of you, everything else takes on the realm of either nothingness, minor entertainment, cultural brainwash, artificial values, or minor diversions. That's what happened to me. One day, I was curious about the world, looking out there for answers. Then when I discovered I have my own inherent standard of how I should live, everything else faded to dust. It was about my own unique ride of the human experience, and I've lived it for at least the past 20 years or so. Everything else disappeared into the bullshit of the world for me. I don't care about all that political propaganda, the government, and the mainstream news they're shoving down our throats in the mass media anymore. They say that the purpose of formal education is to make people autonomous, independent thinkers, but to me, the hidden agenda is to get people hooked on phony knowledge they've defined as the righteous, formal knowledge of life, mostly in the social sciences, so that people don't think for themselves away from this little box of life the mainstream academic forces have created. They just buy into it and believe in it without questioning it. Another thing I've noticed that school does is that it makes people look to other people's ideas for their entertainment and inspiration rather than looking into themselves to create their own inspiration and entertainment. I don't care about somebody else's fictional story, unless it's something great like The Grapes of Wrath, or about some new age guru spewing off some fake new answer to life, yet the mass media constantly hypes the stuff up and millions of people sit around reading useless books rather than actually doing something with their lives. I believe that there is some good, interesting, entertaining artwork out there, but to me it's easily less than 10% of what's being manufactured for sale as pop music, TV shows, movies, fictional books, etc. For the most part, what they call culture or art is somebody else's bull. Of course, there's a rare gem of beauty and truth to the point of enlightened wisdom and inspiration in a few works of art, but most of it is generic crap masquerading as cool, creative, sexy stuff, particularly all the stuff they're constantly marketing at us in the realm of pop culture entertainment. It can't compete with the beauty, lust, imagination, and euphoria in a person's soul, that is, if you're free enough to go there and live by it. Most people are too timid. It's more comfortable and safe to be a brainwashed clone following the path of life prescribed by the mainstream forces you're surrounded by. To be perfectly blunt, I prefer my own bullshit to other people's bullshit invading my mind. For every individual, life is a fantasy in their minds. What are you living out, your own fantasies or somebody else's fantasies that you read about in a book or saw on a screen, or maybe you're just following the crowd in your local area? There's a big dividing line there. Are you your own person or an indoctrinated consumer spectator? There are a few creative, original people trying to add to the knowledge and evolution of the human spirit, but we're in an era of massive commercial exploitation of everything to make money. Disney has their family channel and the image to promote good old-fashioned American values, but if you probe a bit deeper you'll see that they're a big corporation primarily concerned with their bottom line, make money. On top of that, they do a great job indoctrinating kids to become pacified consumer spectators looking outside of themselves for their thrills and attitudes. This is the root of most of the misery in modern society. People take on the artificial values and amusements from the world at the expense of following their true natures, then wonder why, in a moment of self-honesty, they still feel empty inside. They're cut off from their true natures. When you're not enlightened or free, you're looking out there for something to satisfy you or fulfill you, like I did as a young guy, but you'll never find it, not even with other people, because enlightenment is a connection to whatever force created you, whatever is natural that you feel inside of you. This is where every enlightened person ends up at, knowing themselves, living by their true nature, honoring their souls, spark, essences, whatever you want to call it, not being afraid to follow it fully to its conclusion. If and when you find it, you realize that it's impossible for you to be swayed by other people anymore, good or bad. Praise or criticism mean nothing to you anymore. People can't manipulate you because you're living by your own standard. You don't really care about what they're trying to influence you with or sell you, because you're not in the same game. You're playing your game to be true to who you are. Most of the people around you are playing a game of their perception of being happy, successful citizens in mainstream society. Most people say they feel lonely from time to time. Loneliness is a condition of being cut off from your true nature. You should not feel lonely because you have the spirit of your Creator inside of you. This spirit is always telling you what to do through your inner voice. If you follow it, you are in harmony with yourself. That's the best you can ever possibly do. Your contract with life should be to honor who your Creator made you to be. If you're connected to the God force within yourself, which is your free spirit, that should be enough to always make you feel connected to the spirit of life in the universe. There's nothing more or less than that. My life is about the strength of my free spirit right now. It's only strong if I release most of the natural energy inside of me every day to meet my own personal standard of life. If you don't do this, you'll be out of harmony with yourself. You can't possibly be happy in the transcendent sense. I see people living by delusions claiming to be happy all the time. I intuitively know they ain't got it, that elusive spark for life that only a few people got, even though just about everybody puts out the image that they got it going on. If you don't release the natural energy in your free spirit, over time, this unused energy builds up inside of you and causes feelings of self-betrayal and disharmony. You degenerate into a mundane, overweight, neurotic person stuffing your face, watching TV, feeling sorry for yourself because you lost a hold of all you really own, your body and your spirit, which should righteously be strong and vital. If you're not there, you have little or no self-respect or sense of well-being. People wonder why they feel weak, lost, lonely, depressed and mundane. It's simple. They don't honor the natural life force within themselves. They allow themselves to get swept away by the artificial values of the world around them. They have weak spirits. You can often read a person in one look. Everything comes down to how strong your spirit is. I'm not talking the fake strength most people think they have by being a loudmouth and verbally saying they're strong. Anybody can talk trash or chant meaningless positive affirmations, so what? Your beauty and strength as an individual should be evident by the way you look to other people. Your biology is your biography. How you live manifests itself in how you look. You can't fake the strength of your free spirit. People try to cover themselves up with external symbols of status and money from the outside world, but the strength of your spirit is right there for anyone enlightened enough to see it. How vital and light-footed are you right now without any self-delusion or false bravado? That's how strong your spirit is. The game of the world. People get weak, feel lost, get anxious, feel stressed out, get bored and have a whole pile of other problems because they're not connected to who they really are. I always know what to do right now because I follow my natural intuitive standard. If you're tapped into your natural primal divine source, you always know how to live. We've built a world of technology and passive entertainment for ourselves. I'm not against them but against the overuse of them to the point where we're living artificial lifestyles away from our true natures. It's a massive tragedy to be a heavy technology user and a passive consumer spectator at the expense of discovering your natural primal nature and living by it. This is the universal tragedy of life in the modern world. I'm all about following my true nature and releasing my natural energy every day. This is the way to live a great life. If you don't live like this, your life is not great. It's not about what's going on out there. It's about knowing who you are, knowing what that inherent standard is that you were born with, having the sense to keep it strong all the time by releasing the natural energy inside of you every day. You can call it self-accountability, nobility, inspiration, artistry, narcissism, stubbornness, vanity, ego, soul, self-expression, creativity and a lot of other terms. It doesn't matter what it's called. The important thing is that you're aware that you have an inherent standard away from everything you were ever brainwashed to believe in, and you know your primary purpose in life is to honor it by purging that natural potential energy that's inside of you every day when you wake up. Anybody who doesn't live like this ultimately loses the game of life and is a wimp by any standard because they betrayed their God-given, natural potential in life. The only constant of all people who are truly happy is that they constantly release most of their inspired energy. A lot of people don't know exactly why they feel good almost all the time. It's because they spend a lot of time doing something they consider tough, fun, interesting, engaging, inspirational and stimulating that gives them a sense of well-being and self-respect. There's nothing else. Love, excessive consumption, status, and fame are all secondary considerations after following the main pulse of any enlightened person's life. Follow your true nature. Honor your free spirit by constantly releasing your natural energy all the time with gusto and love for the process. Just about everything in modern society is geared to either make money off people, control them, or both. All businesses are selling either a good or a service. All schools get tuition fees or funding from the government for the number of students they have. All nonprofits are looking for donations to pay their way. Academic institutions are looking for big discoveries or new concepts to generate hype so they can get prestige and either more funding or venture capital. The entertainment shows on TV are financed by advertisers. The mainstream news is paid for by advertising. Politics is sold to us as a serious venture for the intellectual, elitist crowd who want to help people, but it's just another soap opera that the mass media uses to sell its airtime, news magazines, and books, playing this little game of two opposing sides. But the real deal is that the liberals/Democrats and the conservatives/Republicans know they take turns controlling the power, so they're comfortable in playing out the charade of two diametrically opposing sides while keeping everybody else with other ideas out of the power structure. In reality, they're united as the elitists who don't want to let anyone else in. It's not really a free society if they set up this box of two major political parties and expect you to follow it without the option to go outside of it for different ideas if you want. Professional sports is just another big money-making venture for a bunch of fat cats and overpaid athletes who don't care who they play for as long as they make the most money they can while pretending to have an emotional connection with the team so they can suck the stupid sports fans in to waste their time and money on it. The pop culture entertainment industry is like the social game of high school for adults who want to be part of some in crowd. A few people from all the many thousands trying to earn a living in the movie and music industries are chosen to be marketed as stars and celebrities. Then all the brainwashed plebeians bow down to them as special elitists until they're kicked to the curb when the fresh, new batch of celebrities get manufactured to come onto the scene. The ultimate goal of the capitalist marketing machine is to turn all of us into a bunch of passive consumer spectator wimps who work average, dull jobs somewhere, then buy junk food and other useless junk at the mall so we can go home and sit in front of a screen, preferably the TV screen as opposed to the video game or computer screen, because TV is always reinforcing this lifestyle of endless consumption and constant passive entertainment. There might be a few sincere people in religion, self-help, psychobabble and new ageism, but all in all it's the same old snake oil, suck all the weak, stupid people into some flaky idea to make money off them while pretending you sincerely care about helping them live better lives. The only thing these gurus or leaders really care about is to make enough money so they don't have to live in the real world and work regular jobs like all the plebeians they're selling their shtick to. An enlightened free spirit experiences all this massive indoctrination during their formative years but starts peeling it away one institution at a time until they're left like Stephen Dedalus in James Joyce's Portrait of an Artist as a young man, alone with their existential solitude, answering to no one but themselves. That's enlightenment, if you can get past everything you've ever been brainwashed by to discover the pure, real you away from all that stuff, then have the guts to live by it. The world is a circus of ideas not inherent to who you really are. The real question of life is the same question that Charles Dickens' character David Copperfield asked himself: will I be the hero of my own life? Will you be proud of who you are through what you do, or will you follow what everybody around you does and what they tell you to do on TV and in government propaganda? The first rule of enlightenment is that every human being is a loner stuck in their own heads. Nobody knows what anyone else is really thinking, so nobody has anything on you in understanding the human condition, even though a lot of people think they do and present themselves as life experts, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, gurus, counselors, life strategists, or some other foolish title like that because they took some low-level courses at some college somewhere that obviously didn't help enlighten them, because if it did, they would reject this fake ideology of disjointed, discrete, convoluted knowledge called the social sciences, which is sanctioned as our official, formal wisdom about life, but it's nowhere near the true nature of the human condition. They try to dissect the human condition down into hundreds of personality traits, situations, stages, strategies, habits, and steps, but every individual is one complete solitary holistic essence. When you're conceived, you start out with a unique genetic blueprint, and possibly some divine force shoots a spark into you that some people call your talents or gifts from the gods. That's it. That's your true nature. The only thing is, will you follow it and honor it? Will you take on the artificial values the world feeds you, or will you be a passive consumer spectator satisfying your desire for constant entertainment and good-tasting food? When I realized I was a loner like everybody else on the planet, I realized there's no such thing as an in-crowd, a united community, or a united society anywhere, because everybody lives life alone, stuck in their own heads, universes apart from everyone else in their private thoughts, which is why all socio-economic markers are a fake job geared to put out the impression that certain individuals and groups of people are superior to others because they might have a few letters after their name, live in a certain neighborhood, have a certain amount of money, drive a certain brand of car, or belong to a certain country club, but they're all manufactured, artificial constructs that have no power next to the power in your free spirit unless you're a sucker who buys into them. When you free yourself from all of these societal illusions, there's nothing stopping you from doing what you really want to do. How many people screw their lives because they try to pursue some career their parents want, or get caught up pursuing something for the perceived status of it rather than doing what they really want to do? There are at least a billion people around like this, probably multi-billions. You can't get away from who you really are. At the end of every day, the only thing that matters is, did you honor the pure you by releasing a good load of energy to that end today? Truly wise people are the ones who listen to themselves, follow their own intuition, and explore their lives as case studies of one without blindly buying into any other ideas someone is trying to sell them as knowledge or enlightenment. The only worthy life is to explore it freely and honor what you find within yourself, not to follow some low-level theories some system clones spew out pretending they got the goods on wisdom. All the standards of happiness and success you were brought up to believe in are pale imitations of a great life next to an individual with the guts and the courage to live freely as they feel it day by day, matching an inherent standard within themselves one day at a time. A great life is about one thing: release all the natural energy inside of you so you feel like you're riding on air. It's how you free yourself from the mundanity of the human condition. Do this every day. What gives you genuine joy that's good for you and not destructive like alcohol or gambling? Keep doing it regardless of whether you make money off it or not. Joy is directly proportional to the release of one's natural energy. Misery is directly proportional to not releasing one's natural energy. Happy people are those who release a good load of their natural energy every day. They got that free, light-footed, satisfied feeling. After this, the continuum goes from average to depression, all dependent on how much an individual follows artificial values over his true nature plus how much of a passive consumer spectator he or she is as opposed to doing inspired, sensual and loving things with their lives. Massive brainwash. Happiness is not really a state of mind. It's a state of action. You feel happy after you release the energy from your true nature. You can't just sit there, think happy thoughts and be happy because you were born with an intuitive, inherent standard of how you should live. If you don't honor it by releasing a good dose of the natural potential energy you woke up with in the morning, there's no way in hell you can possibly be happy. Sitting around reading a book, gossiping with friends or watching TV cannot make you happy regardless of how positive and inspirational these media might be. When you release your spirit through doing activities from your soul, you earn your self-respect and a sense of well-being. You can only do this one day at a time because every morning is a new day. Regardless of what happened the previous day, either good or bad, every morning starts out as a new day with a clean slate. Sleep erases everything except for right now. You either create your life for that day or you wimp out and be a passive consumer spectator, dull job working clone, yes man, yes woman conformist. I have an inherent standard away from everything I was ever brainwashed to believe in. I release my natural energy with intensity every day to reach the standard and ride my life like a surfer rides a wave. This is the key to happiness. Always release your natural energy to keep your spirit strong and feeling good, tapped into the flow of life your Creator God endowed you with. It feels great. I can't imagine what else could possibly match this. There's no deep psychobabble in life. That's just some meaningless verbal diarrhea that a few overzealous intellectuals created because they had too much time on their hands to analyze life, and now we got a million or so clones calling themselves professional therapists, psychologists and psychiatrists trying to make a living by cheerleading for this false view of how life works, and the tragedy is that a lot of people buy into it thinking that their problems are rooted in some illusory unresolved conflicts from their past. Your subconscious mind is nothing mysterious hidden away in the deep recesses of your consciousness. It's just who you really are after you peel off all the brainwash of the world. Enlightened free spirits live by their subconscious minds on the surface as their conscious minds because they can't buy into anything other than who they are. Happiness comes from nobility or a sense of self-respect. It's not a fixed essence. It's a fluid commodity. You create nobility, happiness, or self-respect, whatever you want to call it, by releasing most of the natural energy in your soul every single day of your life. You have to earn it one day at a time. If you don't, you'll lose yourself because this world of artificial values we've created for ourselves in modern society doesn't come anywhere close to giving any individual a true sense of inner accountability, therefore a sense of harmony achieved by following one's true nature purely. It doesn't matter what you achieve out in the world or what accolades the world throws at you. It's really about your inner sense of accountability if you want peace and happiness. Are you satisfied that you matched or exceeded your own personal standard of life today? Do you even know that you have a personal standard of life inside of you that doesn't have anything to do with status and money out in the world? You have to know how to keep your spirit strong and free day after day forever, but almost nobody knows this or does it because we buy into the definition of life prescribed by mainstream forces rather than taking the journey to discover who we are away from all this stuff. That's why most people are not riding the pulse of their lives to try to be happy in a natural, primal way. They're trying to fill themselves up with something from out there, like more money, more food, more drugs, more entertainment, more pop culture, or more consumer goods to get a perfect feeling you can only get by honoring yourself through a great release of your natural energy. Seeds of greatness within the self. For an enlightened free spirit, it's about your purity as a human being, the way you were created by some force in the universe. I obey my Creator by following the inner voice and intuition he, she, or it put inside of me. I don't care about anything the world tries to enlighten me with except for my need to earn enough money to stay clear of that massive tidal wave of mental spiritual pollution out there. If you got any guts, this is the way you live too, by following the inner standard in your free nature, not by other people's ideas of what's good for you or what you should do to be a good citizen clone. I made a conscious attempt to take the journey that would help me understand who I was away from everything I was ever brainwashed to believe in. Virtually all the psychologists, psychiatrists, self-help gurus, New Age masters, religious preachers, politicians, and school teachers are coming at you with ideas on how to live a better life that they borrowed and built on from the conventional knowledge that already exists in the system, in holy books and in the social sciences. Because of this, they're all brainwashed. Most of them are thinking in linear, material terms, which is an artificial ideology next to who you are purely as an individual in your free spirit. Who is the real you in your primordial nature? Who did your Creator, God, create you to be in your purest archetype? What could possibly be more interesting and right than following this? In India and Africa, when someone is feeling down and out, they try to get them to go outdoors in the sunshine, around people in the marketplace to do something active. In India, they have dance therapy for abused women. In North America, they lock you up in a room, give you drugs and insist on talking about negative things in your past. This is insane. We're buying into this screwed up mental health ideology en masse when it's nothing more than a fraudulent money grab. We're taught to go after the artificial values of success and happiness the world has created, but all you really own is your free spirit. If you don't culture it and keep it strong, material things, fame out in the world, or other people showering you with love and attention can't help you have a strong, easygoing state of mind about your life. The massive brainwashing machine known as the mass media, corporate advertising, and the government has already taken over the world. Nobody can do anything about it. There are at least 8 entertainment news shows on TV every day. Nobody can fight that massive indoctrination. I know that my purity is the only thing I own. I don't own other people, I don't care about home decor, I don't care about my house beyond the basics of minimal comfort. For me, it's about what I do in releasing my natural free spirit every day. I don't get anything out of what they're selling as pop culture entertainment. I don't care about home improvements. I think fashion is a fake industry of pretense. I don't particularly want to know what's on the mainstream news, and I don't like to travel. Everything starts to fade away after 40 for most people, except for enlightened free spirits, even the only things that you were born with, your body and spirit. If you don't keep them strong by exercising and stimulating them all the time, they get weak while, in all likelihood, you become another well-fed, overweight, passive consumer spectator with a looming degenerative disease following some life plan created by the capitalist, pop culture, mass media, religious ideologies you bought into. If you lived 200 or more years ago, the only things that could invade your mind were newspapers and books if you could read, the school if you went, the church if you believed, and the people in your neck of the woods. There was nothing else filling your head up with ideas other than your own. Nowadays there are many forces trying to get into your head to either control you or sell you something. Who are you as a free, pure individual versus how much of your mind do outside forces own? The power of indoctrination is very strong, especially while you're young. Nobody wants to seem odd, weird, or eccentric in the eyes of others, so we're massively influenced by peer pressure to try to be cool based on cool characters in pop culture entertainment, at least as young people. The pursuit of capitalist success is good to a point. Money is good. Marriage, family, and children are good, but an individual's true nature trumps everything because ultimately it's all you own. If you don't culture your free spirit and release that natural energy every day, you'll start to lose a hold of who you really are in your true nature, a sensibility or state of mind you could have had at about 23 to 28 years old when you felt young, strong, inspired and free and lived it to the hilt, even though a lot of people have never lived any part of their lives as bohemian explorer free spirits because they've been so brainwashed to go straight to college after high school then pursue a professional career. You might have career success and a family, but you intuitively know you've lost something valuable even though you may not know what it is. I wrote this book because I figured it out, and now I'm saying it for anyone who wants to hear it. The purpose of life is to discover your true identity as a free spirit brainwashed by none, then live it out by releasing most of your natural energy to that end every single day you're alive. The only real winners of life away from society's artificial status games and pecking order are people who live like this. PBS.org, did a series called Doctor Diaries, which followed several doctors from medical school to over 13 years after. I could immediately tell by looking at them and through what they said that they lost a hold of themselves, but to most people they're doctors, therefore assumed to be advanced people on the cutting edge of life in the highest socio-economic status sector. Almost nobody knows exactly what I'm talking about because we're so brainwashed to measure life's worth by position at work and money, but it's immediately clear to me. They lost a hold of whatever power, freedom, and beauty they might have once had in their free spirits as strong, inspired, easygoing people. There's no reason for anybody to change as you age. You are who you are by birth. At about 23 to 28, you should have the most vitality, inspiration, and strength you should ever have in life because you're physically as strong as you can possibly be. This should make you feel good, positive, carefree, inspired. You will get physically weaker as you age, but your main essence as a human being should not change. This is why I don't get it when I see people who I went to college with who were upbeat, vital people back then look like generic middle-aged frumps now. You would never know they were great bohemians, athletes, artists, and hedonists back then. They let themselves go by not pursuing what was natural to them. Instead, they pursued the artificial values of the world and lost a hold of who they really are by nature. That's why Western society is miserable, even though just about everybody is in denial about living average, mundane lives as opposed to inspired, euphoric ones. We're brainwashed by the traditional work ethic of constant achievement according to other people's standards. You probably remember a few of those overachiever kids in your grade school classes. I was one of them until I realized it's all a big pile of bull, because my life is not about me trying to succeed according to somebody else's standards out there. It's about me following my true nature, doing something I want to do that inspires me and makes me feel good to earn a living, not just work some generic job that sucks the soul out of me, little by little, day by day. The only rules in life are don't mess with people who don't want to deal with you and pay your own way. After that, everything else is society's bull. You don't owe anybody anything. My true nature is my free spirit. Happiness is a fluid commodity. It does not occur after you achieve some idea of a milestone in your life. Happiness, in the sense of accessing the higher reaches of the human condition, can only happen if an individual busts their butt, so to speak, in releasing their natural energy day by day, every day. That's what really makes you high. Give it your all in doing something you love to do. To most people in modern Western society, happiness is defined by two things. To have more money than you need, mostly determined by career or business success, which is the American dream ideology. To be loved and give love to at least one soulmate, be loving with your family, have lots of true friends, and have a loving pet. I grant that I would give each of these two factors up to 13 points each on a 100-point happiness scale, but you're still a loner stuck in your head. Once you have enough money to cover your bills, trying to find more happiness with more money is like trying to fill a bucket up with more water than it can hold. Money and material things can only make you happy to the point of feeling financially secure. After that, if you want euphoric highs in your life, you have 4 options: love, sex, inspired pursuits, and intoxicants. Love is a nice feeling that you have to culture with your intimates day by day. You spend at most 1 hour per day locked in a metaphoric passionate embrace with your most loved intimate in the world. Most of us spend much less time tuned in on the same wavelength as our soulmates or loved ones. Sex is nice, but it doesn't matter how many missiles you shoot off a day. It's still not who you are in your life force. You can't find happiness through sex alone. It's a pleasant afterthought, icing on the cake next to your real life, which is what else you do all day long during your waking hours. You have to release your sexual energy, otherwise your body forces it out when you sleep in order to make room for newly created sex hormones, but at the most you can only spend a small percentage of your time there for your thoughts and energy engaged in the activity. The rest of the time you're alone. The few enlightened people on the planet eventually get past what they were brainwashed by during their formative years to discover that they have an inner standard or inner sense of accountability within themselves. This is your inherent nature that you were born with. Some people call it the soul. Most people never discover their souls because they get massively brainwashed by the world, both by life in their local community and life as they see it in the mass media. If you've got any strength as an individual, all you have to do is follow this inner sense of accountability by releasing your natural energy to that end every day. When you wake up every day, that's your primary motivating life force. For me, my automatic thought every day when I wake up is that I must release most of that natural energy inside of me today, right now. I divide my life roughly like this. Inspired energy, 70%, pursue my natural whims, desires, instinct, and intuition to feel good and honor my archetypes. Sensual, hedonistic, loving, and practical energy, 30%. This is the only way an individual can be happy day after day. You earn your self-respect and sense of well-being through releasing a bulk of that natural energy that's in your soul every morning when you wake up. You can get some well-being from love, sex, and money, but the only way you can get self-respect is by earning it through doing something tough and worthy that comes from the inspired power in your soul. Just burn off a good load of your natural energy every day. Never stop. It's the same principle as with the release of bodily fluids. Keep your wastes and your sexual energy inside, unreleased, and you soon start to feel terrible. Release them and you feel better. It's the same with chi or the life force. Release it and you get the light, free, powerful feeling. Don't release it and you end up another overweight mundane consumer spectator on the scrap heap of humanity. If you release most of this natural energy in your soul day after day until you pass, you'll always feel strong and good. If you don't, it sits inside of you unused, causing a sense of disharmony within yourself which will destroy your body and sense of well-being bit by bit, day by day, until one day when you're about 50 or so, you'll either get some disease caused by an unhealthy lifestyle, get depressed because you know you betrayed yourself, or look in the mirror and see a shell of the person you want to be, which will make you more miserable, to be reminded of how much you betrayed yourself by looking at your less than stellar body. Self-betrayal is sadness caused by knowing you did not become the person you were born with the potential to be. This is the disease of modern capitalism. We trade our true natures for dull jobs, useless material things, and constant passive entertainment. The purpose of life is to run with your free spirit, to feel as vital, healthy, inspired, and good as you can all the time. Very few people know it or live by it. Use your inspiration to do something useful that people will pay for, and that's as good as it gets. The problem in the modern world is that we get massively brainwashed by the artificial values constantly assaulting us through the mass media, formal education, and pop culture entertainment, this collective delusion we've created called mainstream society. Very few people get past it to live by their true natures freely and purely. I have no illusions about my life. I think most people are frustrated and miserable to some extent because they're not living in that capitalist pop culture fantasy world they got brainwashed by through the mass media. They're all looking for a better life with more money and stuff somewhere down the line. Just about everybody thinks they don't have enough of something, either money, material goods, status, coolness, popularity, a thin body, etc. These are all desires manufactured by the outside world. You need a certain amount of money for basic survival and comfort, but after that, money can't give you a strong spirit. There's just you and the natural energy in your soul. Everything else is something you got brainwashed by. These things are all endless pits if you choose to buy into them. The media always tells you that you need more stuff and more status to impress people. The weight loss industry tells you can never be too thin. The music industry tells you that you have to constantly buy new CDs if you wanna be cool. Then they imply that good old boy men watch professional sports and play golf while the younger guys play video games. What if you think it's all lame crap? I live my life day by day, releasing my natural energy, trying to minimize the effects of a massively polluted world on my soul. That's it. There's no higher alleged magical place I can get to as advertised in an easy breezy TV commercial or an infomercial that promises to change your life. This is the Garden of Eden, what you create right here, right now, all the time. I thought psychology had answers, but I had them all along. When I was young, I thought there was an advanced group of people somewhere studying matters of life which they wrote about in all those psychology, self-help type books that started to come on the scene in the 1970s. I was looking for the answers to life. I got brainwashed to think that it was there in these formal system-sanctioned academic fields which were made up of well-researched, rigorous official system knowledge as well as the philosophical theories of past philosophers. I was intimidated by society's institutions to think that whatever they put out is the legitimate, dogmatic knowledge and wisdom of life, but it eventually exploded into oblivion when I saw that it was discrete bits of knowledge gained by doing what amounts to silly experiments that come nowhere near the pure, basic soul of man and how people live by intuition. It's simple. I am who I am the way I was born. God, the creator of all things, made me this way. He gave me intuitive, inherent wisdom that unfolded as I grew to maturity. I followed the nature he gave me in my purity as a human being, so now I'm enlightened and free. All the so-called knowledge the world produces in everything but the physical sciences is questionable at the very least and manipulative bull at its worst. It was all created by people hiding behind degrees and titles pretending they know something advanced, but if they're so advanced they would see that their social sciences are a little box they created for themselves and set off on a course to explore their lives for the unique experience it is based on what they feel within themselves that their creator gave them, but they don't. They follow the artificial values of the world, case in point, psychoanalysis. They make it out to be some profound, legitimate study of the deep recesses of the subconscious mind. It sounds intriguing and mysterious to the uninitiated, but to people like me, it's another example of lies masquerading as legitimate knowledge. The subconscious mind is just the soul, who you are in your true nature, but most people don't know who they really are because they live in the pragmatic world and follow society's rules, thereby censoring what they really feel as pure, free bohemians. If you lived by your free spirit, your normal mode of thinking is as who you really are, your subconscious mind, not this artificial model of life your society operates on. There's nothing mysterious about this so-called hidden part of you. Just because Freud sat around entertaining the fantasies of rich Austrian women doesn't mean it's righteous knowledge. Life is common sense. If you don't release your sexual energy, you're gonna start thinking about sex. It's got nothing to do with traumatic events in your childhood related to potty training. What a pile of dada, yet thousands of psychiatrists continue to swear by it like a bunch of clones in the fairy tale The Emperor's New Clothes. Anybody with guts looking for real truth and happiness in life lives by their own reality as a case study and unique experience of one. They leave the bull of the world behind, which is why none of the so-called social science/self-help experts gets it, because they're living in this little box rather than saying screw this crap, I'm gonna live my own life freely, pursuing what I feel. All the so-called gurus have their X number of steps, stages, or rules to a better life which even they don't follow, because life as lived is a holistic affair, not some mechanical process to achieve linear goals, defined by capitalism, by following one-liner discrete strategies of life. I came to the realization that all this life advice/life management stuff is a fiction created to fool people into thinking these phony fields have the goods on life in order to make money off people and otherwise control them, because none of it addresses the way people really live, intuitively by what they feel within their spirits. About a decade after I came to this realization, I came across an interview with Thomas on the radio, who has been speaking against the massive categorization of the human being since 1962 with the publication of his book The Myth of Mental Illness. But even though he has been at it for the past 50 years, he said they don't want to listen to him. It took me over 10 years before I found another critic like me in the mainstream media. These voices of truth are censored or shut out of mass media access, probably because the drug companies pay big bucks for advertising and the media outlets don't want to get their cash cow mad at them. The so-called professional people in the mental health industry would rather live in a delusionary state of denial and collect a paycheck than admit they're experts of meaningless verbal diarrhea. If a person is free and enlightened, he or she has no choice but to pursue the real truth of the human condition as they feel it, not buy into some psychobabble snake oil someone is selling. They've created massive fields of liberal arts knowledge and categorized the human into hundreds of parts and supposed mental illnesses, but it's all a lie because every individual has his own truth. Nobody has the right to judge anyone else if they're not hurting anybody, and life is not a fixed moment, therefore not a fixed diagnosis. So if someone diagnoses some person with a mental illness based on some test or subjective observations, the next day that person might not be feeling like that label, yet multi-millions of people fall for it and take the drugs given to them to supposedly cure these mental illnesses. The big deception in the modern world of mental health is that you are not responsible for your weaknesses and failings as a human being. They are caused by a traumatic experience of childhood, like being abused, which almost every defendant's lawyer of a serious crime brings up in his or her trial. A biochemical imbalance in the organic, physiological brain that an individual was born with. They can't do anything about it, so they're not responsible for their less than stellar performance as a human being. These are total lies geared to make the mental health industry more appealing to the mainstream, who find it easier to seek treatment now that they were told that a lot of their negative behaviors are beyond their control, but they're not. It's all a grand scheme to sell mental health drugs and therapy. The truth of life is that you create it as you live it, day by day. You not only create your own thoughts and actions, what you do and think also causes the release or non-release of endorphins and neurotransmitters in your brain. This creates your biochemistry, which determines your basic mood and attitude day by day. Back in the day, people lived through the Depression, the war, and prison camps. They had no time to feel traumatized and contemplate their misery through therapy. They had to find a job to earn money to survive. Personally speaking, I live every day as I experience it. I'm not nostalgic about the past, and I can barely remember it anyway. I've had some tough situations when I was young, but they're long gone now. I can barely remember them unless somebody brings them up. It's just the big lie to connect your past with who you are right now in order to suck money out of you in therapy sessions. Drugs can't cure anything in the mind because almost all mental problems people have are the result of disharmonious spirits. They don't live by their true natures. They betray themselves by following the artificial values of the world, then wonder why, despite reaching all the markers of success in a capitalist world, they still feel empty inside. This emptiness causes most of the anxiety, addictions, and depression in the world. The biochemical imbalance theory is a big lie because psychiatrists can't measure neurotransmitter levels in the brain unless they do an invasive spinal fluid extraction. Even then, every individual has their own baseline. You can't tell who has an inherent biochemical deficiency which physiologically makes them sad. We create our own biochemistries through how we live and what we do. I grant the fact that some sadness is caused by tragedies, but life goes on. If sadness goes on day after day, it's the person's fault for being a wimp, getting down on himself, sitting around not releasing his natural energy, not some lie of a biochemical imbalance beyond his control. It's a great excuse to take the blame off the individual for causing his or her own misery, but it's not true. It's a great way to sell drugs and psychotherapy which do not solve the weaknesses in people's spirits. I actually know a guy who was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive behavior, which is considered a disease caused an imbalance in the brain. He told me he just got tired of acting like an idiot, set out on a course of health and well-being as described in my health book, just basic stuff like taking responsibility for his life, exercising, eating healthy foods and working a job. He's muscular and married now. My theory and his theory is that when people don't release their natural energy from their true nature, it causes feelings of emptiness and anxiety within themselves. They try to deal with these unpleasant feelings by doing mentally unhealthy things like turning to negative addictions, getting depressed, or in his case, repeating meaningless behaviors over and over again. You can solve these problems easily. Get up off your ass. Pursue whatever is inspired within your free spirit. Learn from your cat or dog. They live every day to release their natural energy. If they don't, such as if the caretaker keeps them cooped up or chained all the time, they will get fat and depressed or skinny from the stress. They thrust these massive paradigms on us, and they got these supposed experts with the power to say we're not normal, we're off, we're screwed up in a certain way, we're mentally ill, then tell us how they can fix us. And the funny thing is that virtually all of us accept it without challenging it. According to conformist system thinking, they know what's good for us better than we know ourselves. This is insanity that we the people allow these phony experts to diagnose our kids with learning disabilities based on these flimsy lists they have of what constitutes attention deficit disorder, which are behaviors that every kid shows here and there. Then they try to say we have this deep psychological disease called depression, which is beyond our control because of a brain imbalance, so we have to take drugs for the rest of our lives, when the truth is that we've lost a hold of our free spirits by following the artificial values of the capitalist world and pop culture entertainment. The real problem virtually all the time is that we lost our natural sense of inspiration. We either get it back or stay in our pits, regardless of how many antidepressant drugs we take or how many psychotherapy sessions we ramble through. Most of us have money problems because we live above our means. That can be solved easily by stepping down a few steps in luxuries to live a more basic lifestyle based on positive things, not frivolous desires. Many people have love and relationship problems. Regardless of how close you are to somebody else, they can't give you a strong spirit soaring in flight. You have to create it on your own. Love, money, or psychobabble can't solve the problem of human existence. The only thing that can is the individual connecting to his free spirit, which connects him to his divine creator. If you honor your free spirit via releasing the natural, inspired, sensual and loving energy in your soul with intensity every day, that's the only way you can possibly live anything that comes close to a great life. Everything else fades in the dust next to this type of lifestyle. Losing yourself is simply a feeling that you betrayed yourself by not releasing the natural potential energy you have inside of you when you wake up every single day. Release it, you feel good. Don't release it and your inner voice starts calling you a gutless wimp for not honoring who you were born with the potential to be. Self-betrayal is everywhere. Nobody was born to be a pale-looking, weakly, overweight bureaucratic type. We were born to live in the Garden of Eden, yet the modern world has taken us away from our true natures. Then we wonder why we feel a gnawing sense of emptiness and get all kinds of degenerative diseases, so we try to get rid of these negative feelings by eating junk food, going to a movie, reading a romance novel, going shopping, beating somebody up, etc. All this emptiness comes from the same cause: people not living by their true natures, therefore not releasing their natural energy, which results in a feeling of self-betrayal, which could be happening at a subconscious level because most people aren't aware that they're violating their free spirits the way they were born to be. They're living by capitalist, pop culture, religious values, which are all artificial. Paternalism, Big Brother, and sucker plebes. When I was young, I was first indoctrinated into the Catholic Church. Then I was indoctrinated to think that pop culture entertainment is the coolest thing on the planet. The celebrities are the cool, popular people, no different than the in crowd in any school, except that now the charade is being played out on a societal level. I'm supposed to be impressed, show deference and try to imitate them if I want to capture a little bit of that fabulosity and attain this supposed higher quality of life they're living than all the normal plebes. If I'm a normal plebe, I'm supposed to be buying into this paradigm as the ultimate in happiness and success, the idea that having lots of material things increases my happiness, and being famous, having strangers know who I am, gives me a special feeling that I must be special since all these people know me. The normal plebe will try to get a piece of this myth by watch these pop culture shows, buying CDs, DVDs, etc., and anything else these so-called celebrities are hawking in advertisements. Nobody ever told me I have my own life with my own standards. I was never taught that I have a pure free spirit and all I have to do is follow it if I want to feel good all the time. I had to live through all the brainwash and all the glitter the world has to offer before I figured out it was just me every morning with my intuitive knowledge that I must be true to myself by releasing most of my natural energy today, every day. They don't teach you that in grade school. They just tell you to go to college so you can become a clone and take on some artificial values that separate you from your true nature. I figured it out and now live freely away from everything I was ever indoctrinated to believe in, but the big tragedy is that very few people are able to separate themselves from society's institutions long enough to discover who they are as individuals and live by it. In order to become free and enlightened, you have to see past all the bull and not buy into any of it, not patriotism, your ethnic group, government propaganda, religion, New Ageism, psychobabble, pop culture entertainment, the American dream ideology, etc. We're so brainwashed that we accept these ideologies and paradigms without questioning them. Except for objective physical laws like science and math, everything else was created by people, so it's not sacred even though many of us treat it as though it is. There is an individual purity inside of you that's distinct from all that. My purpose in writing this book was to explain that you are not the ideas and ideologies you were brought up to believe in. You are an individual with your own inherent archetypes, which is what you would follow if you were free and enlightened, the only rule being that you don't hurt or interfere with other people's lives in the process. You have to earn a living, but after that, what else is there? What can comfort and luxury do for you to make you feel like you're living a worthwhile life? Can a loving family and friends make you feel you're connected to the person you were born to be by nature? They can't. Only you can bring self-respect, a sense of well-being and transcendence/euphoria to yourself through what you do. There is chaos all around you in the modern world. Who are you as an individual in the midst of all this? Do you have a true identity, or are you just an amalgamation of what you picked up from the people and the ideas around you? The brainwash in a mass media world is so pervasive and powerful that most people define themselves in terms of world paradigms, not in terms of the pure archetypes that exist at the core of their being. It's a huge tragedy, but many people won't acknowledge it for two main reasons. They failed themselves as human beings. They did not become the person they felt they wanted to be at one time when they were young and innocent, so they deny it and go along with life in capitalist pop culture political religion land. Many people are lazy and easily swayed by the world's reward system. There are many, many more people savoring junk food, reading meaningless novels and watching silly TV shows than people trying to live inspired, original lives following their true natures. For the business machine, it's all about sales. Get the plebeies out there hooked on the pleasures they're selling, then keep them hooked on them for life. Don't tell them that they can get more pleasure honoring whatever might be pure, beautiful, original, and inspired within themselves. Just keep advertising pop stars with shiny new CDs, shiny new cars, computer games, trendy hair color and good-tasting food on TV, and let them become pacified consumer spectator clones. The capitalist dream ideology of life I was raised to aspire to is about setting goals to try to achieve career or business success, material wealth, and a happy family life with a spouse and kids. The problem is that it's a picture-perfect image created by someone else, not you, a snapshot of a fantasy momentary feeling of idealistic bliss, but it doesn't work because life is a fluid commodity. It doesn't stand still. What if you get all the money and power in the world and find a spouse who loves you for who you are? What do you do tomorrow when you wake up? What do you do every day? Your money, power, or loved ones can't live your life for you. There are plenty of people around measuring themselves by society's standards. I own this big house, I own 5 cars, I got this award, I sold 1 million widgets, I even got a wife and 2 kids who love me, but it's not like some family living in the Garden of Eden close to their primal roots with a simple, genuine kind of happiness and love. What do you do when you get sick or some degenerative disease caused by living a Western lifestyle of artificial values and processed food catches up to you? What's the good of anything if you don't genuinely feel light, free, inspired and sensually satisfied through what you do every day of your life? Many of us go through our lifetimes not knowing that the society we're surrounded by is somebody else's ideas imposed on us, that we have a free, pure reality within ourselves away from all this stuff. We just assume that this is the definition of happiness that everybody wants, to be successful in the capitalist sense, enjoy what the material world promotes as fun, comfort, and luxury, and be cool, fashionable, trendy and glamorous by trying to imitate pop culture characters and the glossed-up people in TV commercials called celebrities and stars. But the truth is that these are artificial values imposed over your true nature. It's about your spirit. How do you stay strong, inspired and happy day after day, forever? How does any individual figure out how to stay engaged or connected to his or her spirit every single day, no matter what happens, in good times and in bad? Inspiration is a derivative of the words inspirited, to ride your spirit, to go wherever it takes you in order to feel the intensity of your life. This is where it's at. Who's got game? You have to earn a living, but after that, the battle of life is easily how to keep a strong, vital spirit every single day for life, at least for people like me. A large percentage of the population has been so massively brainwashed to the linear, material, socioeconomic status view of life that they can't even understand me when I say you gotta purge a good dose of natural energy every day that's intense enough to give you feelings of euphoria, self-respect and well-being that all added together make you feel naturally high, like you got your game on, you're riding a flow, you're in your groove. You gotta expend enough energy to feel the lightheartedness of euphoria. If you don't know what I mean, imagine the last time you got a buzz and started dancing around with abandon. You can feel like this straight. Just do something reasonably tough that releases a lot of endorphins and makes you feel naturally high on life. The average person is stuck at mundane comfort. They think eating at expensive restaurants, sipping on champagne, hanging out in the front row at some professional sports event or concert and buying high-end fashionable clothing represents the best life has to offer. They don't understand the idea of expressing or riding one's free spirit to feel free enough to break out of the shell of generic existence for a while. If you want individual self-power, this is where it's at. It's not in some job position, the car you drive or the clothes you wear. They're transient things that originate outside of you. They come and go, but your spirit is always inside of you, either weak or strong. You can easily tell who's got health, vitality, and joy and who doesn't. You might not be sick on the outside with a specific disease according to Western medicine, but I can usually tell when there's something off balance with someone. Weight is a good marker. Excess weight symbolizes inner disharmony. Why do people eat to excess? Is it to get a dose of instant comfort to compensate for feelings of aesthetic spiritual emptiness? Another marker is the face. Until you're about 30 years old, you're generally too young to bear a permanent imprint on your face of how you've lived, but after 30, it's easy to tell how most people have lived by seeing if their faces show evidence of either joy or a scowl. Physical vitality is an expression of a strong spirit. You only got natural game if you're strongly connected to who you really are, the way your God created you to be. Anybody can be a manager at Corporation X, drive an expensive car and put on some fancy duds, but you are what you are despite dressing up in ties, suits, furs, jewelry, and cool-looking sports cars. You are who you are the way you were born. Everything else is the bull out there. If you really want to taste the beauty of a great life, you have to be functional enough to play the game of the world to earn a living, but you don't have to sell your soul to it, even though many people do. They will let their true identity slip away and waste their lives on somebody else's ideas of what a great life is. Every morning when I wake up, I feel alright, but I still feel average and mundane like every other human being when they get up. Almost every day of my life, except for when I'm really tired or injured, I immediately start off the day by doing physical activities. After about 45 minutes of this, I feel the power start to kick in. It's a combination of earning self-respect, the physiological release of endorphins, the freeing effects of the motion, and the aesthetic spiritual flowing sense that I'm in my element. I start to feel the natural energy going through me like an eagle in flight must feel when he's soaring. I do this for several hours, then I go off and do creative intellectual activities for several hours. After purging all this natural energy out of me, my spirit feels strong. I can then pursue some of the only two other things that matter to me, the experiences of sensual pleasure and love. This is as good as it gets day by day. Why do I do this? It's simple. I went out into the world looking for success, happiness, well-being and a permanent euphoric feeling, but I never found it in anything the world had to offer, so I came back to who I always was in my true nature. I honor it every day. Almost nobody, especially in the Western world, honors their true natures or even knows what it is, the archetypal sense of fleeting visions from your soul/subconscious mind or inner voice. I got and still get a few visions of who I am in fleeting glimpses in my mind's eye. Nothing from the outside world, including all the capitalist ambition, psychobabble, religion, New Ageism and pop culture entertainment will ever interfere with me living by my free spirit. The world can take all its phony knowledge and profound-sounding analysis and continue to hurt itself by living in massive delusion. The modern world is constantly coming up with new knowledge in the so-called social sciences and management/success skills as they call it, but it's all done to sell a new useless product to people based on lies and hype because you are who you are in your nature and that's it. You already have all the intuition you need to get through any situation you might encounter, it's just that you don't know it. You were brainwashed like I was, to think that there are advanced people out there doing advanced research in unlocking the mysteries of human life, but when you realize the truth, you see it's all like the Wizard of Oz hiding behind a curtain. They got phony experts in everything, even time management. Nothing measures up to what an individual already has in his or her soul. They want you to think that they are doing advanced research so they can sell you junk and otherwise control you, but it's a big tragedy where capitalist forces like the psychobabble industry and the publishing industry are constantly coming out with new concepts telling you they're on the latest, new cutting edge of life, but it's all about selling you meaningless stuff to make money off you. People like me live longer, better quality lives than everybody else because we don't buy into all this crap they're trying to sell us. We honor our true natures and that's it. Some of us have intense bouts of romantic love usually when we're young, but it wears off. Unless you plan to fall in love several or more times in your life, the euphoria, joy, and transcendence of life cannot be found in romantic love because there are finite limits as to how romantic you can be before your soulmate or lover tells you to back off for a while to give them time to breathe. Sex is great, but it's momentary. Normal men with some vitality have to constantly release this energy at least once to X number of times every day if they want to stay loose and not build up stress, but even then it's just a momentary release. It still can't touch the engine that runs your life, your aesthetic spiritual life soul force. Happiness is the result of a sustained release of the free spirit. A strong spirit makes me feel more loving because I feel good and want to share this good feeling by passing it on, whereas if I'm feeling weak, I'm not releasing my natural energy, therefore I'm in my own little wimpy world of self-pity, self-contempt and misery, so I don't feel so loving and open. Many of the relationships we have with other people are not soul-stirring in the intimate, deep loving, profound kindred spirit soulmate connection sense, not even the relationships with our spouses after about 2 years. They're more like casual entertainment. They don't help you reach the heights of your experience of the human condition. The craving for material goods, comfort, luxury, status, fame, and being entertained by pop culture entertainment can't touch the release of the energy in one's free spirit for the effects of touching the divine within oneself. This is why I know the world is FKed. There's me and a few others living our lives as inspired sensual loving bohemians, and everybody else living by a one-dimensional, capitalist, passive consumer pop culture paradigm of success and happiness. We're a bunch of materialistic consumers and status-hungry capitalists neglecting whatever natural inspiration lives inside of us. Your God, the divine force of the universe, put a song in your soul. If you want to be enlightened and free, you must follow it and wean yourself off everything you've ever been brainwashed to believe in. We all have a free, natural sensuous carnal side, or at least a hedonistic side. It's great to have your fun, drink alcohol, do drugs, Go to strip joints, eat ice cream, watch movies, gossip with your friends, go on MySpace or whatever it is you like to do for pleasure. But if you do these things without honoring an inner sense of accountability you should naturally intuitively feel within your free spirit, you really have no quality of life to speak of. You've lost the game of life. You will eventually degenerate into self-contempt. It happens to all addicts, couch potatoes, and everybody else with a generic, average, mundane, passive consumer lifestyle not tapped into their souls. Now you know why all those guys with lots of money still do some kind of work, because life is more than money. It's about knowing how to stay inspired day after day through what you do. It's the only way to feel good about yourself one day at a time. They got it half right. They figured out how to stay inspired, but they didn't go all the way as free, sensuous hedonists like Ovid of ancient Greece, who went to Rome where he was banished to an island for his free thoughts. A lot of people don't understand that they're living by the basic principles of free spiritism. They worked hard, made a lot of money, then realized they still felt empty, so they search for something to light their fire, so to speak, to keep them feeling like when they wake up in the morning they got something to do that's gonna make them feel like they're hitting anywhere from a home run to a grand slam in their ride of the human condition for that day. It's the release of the natural energy in your free spirit. That's the prize every day when you do it. I'm pretty cynical about the human race in general, but there is one bit of nobility that some of us have. We try to tap into whatever is inside of us that the divine creator of the universe, our God, gave each of us, a primordial divine force that's strong, positive, and can make us feel transcendent if we express it or purge it to its fullest. That's it. There's nothing else that can satisfy me. Every day when I wake up, I know I must release my natural store of energy for that day, even when I feel tired and sick. It's what I do and who I am. It's not work. It's my life force. It gives me strength and vitality and makes me feel good. I'm counterintuitive to most people. The more energy they release, the more tired they feel, because they've been brainwashed to think all effort at anything is unpleasant, tedious work. But when I release my natural energy, it gives me inner joy and power. The more natural energy I purge on any given day, the more invigorated I feel.